Hello everybody, this is Purge, bringing you guys a 6.82 update. There's a new patch. I'm excited to talk about it. Couple disclaimers. Number one, this is the first time I've read any of this, so I'm going to mess some of this shit up. I'm going to be confused. I'm not going to understand things that I should understand maybe if I was a smarter human being, but I'm not, unfortunately. That's disclaimer number one. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm sorry about that. I'll try to edit the video if you guys notice the mistakes or if I notice the mistakes. Part two, I'm sick, so my voice sounds weird. I'm going to have to drink a lot of water. I've heard that this patch is huge and it's like extremely encompassing, so I expect I might need to take breaks to drink water or maybe blow my nose because I'm sick and I have mucus draining, you know, all that good stuff. So I'm in my bedroom right now on my laptop. The reason I decided to do it like this is because if I was on the lobby or by where our computers are, there's a lot of people there and I don't want to interrupt them for the next like 2 hours or however long this takes. So I'm just gonna hop into it and just go to town and say everything that I want to say until we're all done here. So I'm just gonna get started with that, and I hope you guys learn a lot and hopefully enjoy. So 6.82. Everybody's been waiting for this for a while. This now changes basically what the game was like even before TI. So this is basically a lot of additions and changes based on how TI has changed. So land is being modified. I heard a little bit about that. Moving day for Roshan. He hasn't gone far. His pit now looks upon the river from a different angle. Nearby paths have been rerouted around his legendary den. Interesting. So there was a Radiant and Dire disadvantage. I believe Dire had an advantage. Radiant used to have an advantage, but I think then they changed the camps, and then the percentage for win ratio in pro games drastically shifted towards the Dire advantage. Dire has an advantage, and first pick has an advantage, I believe. So this is I looked at this before, and it like blew my mind that there's a new rune. I was like, there's always been the same amount of runes. This doesn't make sense. But it's a new rune. It's called the Bounty Rune. It imbues with golden experience. It will serve to enhance your wealth and to speed the accumulation of abilities. So I assume what this does, don't know for sure, but I believe what it does is while you grab it, it gives you increased gold gain and increased experience gain for the duration, but I'm not completely sure. I'm sure it's detailed down below. Crimson Guards, oh, it's a new item, okay. Crimson Guard is now, okay, I kind of remember this. I seem to remember it was like a Vanguard, kind of, with armor. I seem to remember it was really good, but we'll get the details down below, and Bloodseekers can be reworked, interesting. Bloodbath has been replaced by a new ability, Blood Ray, blah 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 blah. Phantom Lance reworked, really? Huh. Okay. Alright, that's just like a preview. Those are all just previews. Alright, let's get into it. This is what I want to see. Fountain area is now at a higher elevation level. Interesting. So it should be easier to Roshan when you're in a dangerous area. So that means it should give Radiant an advantage. That's the first, and whoever's in the Roche pit has a slight advantage, which is what I would argue. Fountain vision increased. That's fine. Fountain attack range increased. Fountain true sight increased. That's all fine. Makes fountain camping a little harder. Reworked terrain structure around the Roshan area. Reworked terrain. It looks like there's a lot of terrain changes. Added a new ward spot near bottom. Dire tier 2. Dire tier 2. Okay, that's good. I think I know what they're talking about. Alternate path north and bottom. You know, this is all too hard to read and explain. So I'm hoping this is just, okay. Good. This is a lot of images. Okay, so this is the. God, this is confusing. I'm gonna assume this is Bot Rune. This looks like Bot Rune. This is where the Ancients used to be. Was right here. Now that's where the Roshan pit is. And this is elevated. I mean, the Ancient camp must be somewhere else over here, maybe. Somewhere over here. Perhaps the Ancients is this camp. I am not sure though. It looks like such a small camp. That was the first. That's the Dire bottom lane. I'm just gonna look at the pictures. YOLO, etc. Okay, so this is the tower. It looks like you can get around it, which is very interesting. So that means you can hide by the bot tower. You can also lead your way up into here. It looks like there's a lot of juke spots and things like that. Very interesting. So this is going to change the offlane a lot, because it takes a long time now to get to the offlane, and the offlaner has a lot of places to now hide. So that means the offlaner should be able to defend their towers a little easier. I'm going to guess this is the ancient spot that they're spawning on. This is all available on Test Client, by the way, so if you guys want to check it out, you can. This is where the secret shop area is. So there's some paths between this. How does this work again? Let me see. So if you're here and you want to go to the right lane, you have to use a force staff up here. You can force staff in the Roche pit. You can run over here and then run down to go back to the river. Radiant side is very similar actually. It's easier for the offlaners to get to the secret shop area and for people to cut. So that means it is easier for the offlaner to be able to avoid danger and stuff, but it's also a lot easier for the supports to dive the offlaner. The direction that you can come in can be from behind. You can come from the front. You can also try to sneak in this way and then come in and attack. People can attack directly from your side instead of it being more obviously only one or two directions. So we'll see how this plays out in terms of oops, I don't mean to open that up, Pudge. We'll see how that plays out in terms of the offlaner. Be interesting. This area looks slightly different. I assume this is maybe a new ward spot is why they're showing this. Everybody always kind of assumed this should be a ward spot, but you can actually ward like right here and it's just about as good. It shows you like this area here. Okay, these are different too. So there's more juke spots. This means there should be a lot more places for the offlaner to hide while he's trying to sap experience. And for supports to hide as well, actually. And this is pretty good for a couple reasons. If an offlaner has a ward over here, he won't always know where the support's coming. Because before this is one solid mass, and these trees being destroyed is very unlikely. So supports being able to get around and harass the offlaner was very difficult if he had a ward up. So this means that you should be able to hide a bit more, and the offlaner might make more mistakes. This is a little different. It looks like you can run in here and hide in here. I don't know if you can still eat this tree and get out or not. I'm not entirely sure. Bounty Rune. 2 runes will not spawn in the river for every 2 minutes. This is huge. This means one of them will always be Bounty Rune. Okay, interesting. Alright, so this is kind of similar to the way that Han worked, to my knowledge. I never played Han, but I heard that in Han, see, the runes are kind of unfortunate for mid players because the way that it works is one of the mid heroes gets a refilled bottle, which is equivalent to 400 HP and 210 mana, plus they get the rune. And the other mid hero gets nothing. They have to bottle crow, so they get kind of screwed. So the way that I think that it worked in Han was there would be 2 runes that spawned. One of them would be actually like a Dota rune, like double damage, haste, things like that. And the other rune would refill your bottle to a 2/3 bottle. So it was like you still got 270 HP and 140 mana. So it wasn't as much regen, and you didn't get the rune, but it wasn't like you were screwed and had to go back to base. So this means that a lot more mid heroes should be viable because, well, not necessarily, because normally the problem is that heroes that can't push the lane can't be viable because they can't push the lane and therefore get the rune control. But now since there's 2 runes spawning, this means that, first of all, bottles are going to be better on support heroes than other heroes. You should see more bottles in Dota games now because there should be 2 heroes getting them instead of just 1. Bottles are more viable on more heroes like supports and carries and things, but also the bounty rune is really good for like carries. I would argue. So I would say we'll see carries maybe grab bounty runes a bit more often. Very interesting. Runes are replaced every 2 minutes if they are not picked up. Okay. Alright, I think that's very smart. The reason that they added this, the runes are replaced every 2 minutes if they're not picked up, is because I'm assuming they don't want people to abuse the bounty rune maybe as much, but it's still a 50% chance of it appearing where it was previous. I don't know. Plus, if somebody only clears out 1 rune and not the other one, it would make sense to just shuffle it rather than... I don't know, we'll see how the bounty rune works. Okay, 50 experience plus 5 per minute, and 50 gold plus 2 per minute can be bottled. Okay, so it doesn't enhance the amount of gold and experience you get. It just legitimately gives you bonus. I don't know how long it lasts for. It's kind of confusing. Plus 2 per minute. It means you get an extra 2 gold per minute, which isn't really that much. You get like, I guess it's okay. You get like something like 8 gold every 7 seconds or something like that. So you get approximately an extra 2 gold per minute. Well, that's what it says. It's not that much. It's like a very small increase. It's equivalent to like a last hit. I don't remember how much 1 creep experience is, but 1 last hit is a little bit less than 50 gold. So it's basically like a... I might be undervaluing this, but it feels like it's like a last hit. It's like, congrats, you got a last hit. You didn't get a haste rune, but you got a last hit. That's kind of what it seems like to me, but I'm not entirely sure. Denied creeps now give less experience. This is a reversion to how it was in the past. Initial creep wave from 144 XP to 113 XP if the creeps are denied. First blood bonus gold decrease from 200 to 150 as well. I don't understand the implications of the denied. Well, the denied creeps now give less experience makes sense, I guess. They had that before, and it made the mid matchup less. It made it more about farming rather than like outplaying your opponent. Because if you're really good at last hitting, you could basically force your opponent to get a whole lot less experience because you're better at last hitting than them. So that was kind of how TI2 functioned. People always talk about it as being Dendy style. Dendy outplays people and gets a lane advantage because of it. And I believe they changed it so that denied creep still gave like a lot of experience, and that wasn't like that because I heard some people complain about it, but I think I forgot about that specific instance. I might be wrong. Rework the bonus area of effect. Only affects the extra experience given if within an area after a kill. It does not affect the natural experience you get from killing a hero of a certain level. So the old was all these numbers. God, this is getting confusing. God, I really wish this was just explained. I know that's my job, but it's it's looking. All right, let's compare the two charts. 20 times victim level plus XP factor. What's the XP factor? XP difference times victim experience. So basically the if you're really high level, it appears XP difference times the victim experience. So if the XP difference is bigger, that means the experience is increased. But these 0.5, 0.35, it's hard to do this without plugging in examples, so I feel like I shouldn't even bother focusing on this because I'd have to plug numbers in to see differences, and I can't do that off the top of my head. It's a little too difficult for me. I'm sorry about that. 15 times 5. I honestly have no idea what the implications are of this. It's either going to be something like, it could be something like, if you're really far ahead, getting a kill on a super low HP or super low level guy doesn't give you as much as it would if it was a high level guy. But I don't know exactly what this means, so unfortunately I think we're going to have to skip down how this works. Bonus area effect in gold and streak ending. Is this more complicated numbers? Yep. The gold for killing Endy Spree is in turn reduced from 125 to 1000 to 100 to 800. Okay. So yeah, so you don't lose as much gold when you lose the streak anymore, which is kind of fine. I'm not entirely sure. I think that's good. Glyph of Fortification cooldowns now refresh whenever you lose a tier 1 tower. Interesting. Really cool change to fix like the TI3 or the TI4 take all your tower style. If you take a tier 1 tower, you get your glyph back, which means that the next tower that they push, if you play a style that just pushes tower and pushes the tower and pushes the tower and pushes the tower, you now get a better save against that. And a glyph is a really big deal. The amount of time that it buys you is huge, especially in the early game when you don't have a Vlads or you don't have a Basilius, or even if you do have a Basilius, usually one glyph is enough for a tower to kill like 3 or 4 creeps. So having an extra glyph is a huge deal here. That's really cool. Tier 2 towers armor increased from 20 to 25. So it's going to be a lot harder to kill tier 2 towers now. I find it interesting that they're buffing towers more than maybe nerfing some heroes, but I guess that's maybe the better solution because people would just find different heroes to push with. But towers bounty gold for destroying tier 1, 3, 4 is also reduced by quite a bit. That's a lot. That's a big gold difference. This means that let's hypothetically say, let's ignore the glyph. Let's say people are still as good at taking towers as they were before glyph, and we'll ignore the tier 2 armor. Let's say one team does a really good job in the early game of taking all 6 towers on the outside of the map. If they do this, their overall gold advantage versus your opponents is less than it was in the last patch. And because of this means that the defending team, if they split push better, and if they still farm individually decently, they're going to have a better chance of winning because the gold disadvantage will be less. So this is good for teams that don't necessarily want to defend the 5-man, basically, which is good. Because that is by far that was the most popular strategy at TI4. It was low mistakes, group push, take towers, go high ground, end the game, basically. Captains with the 3rd ban phase order is swapped. Okay. I assume that means that the other person gets to ban before the second pick gets to ban, which might be a slight second pick advantage. I assume that's what that is. It's probably to give the second pick a slight advantage, because second pick is far inferior. The reason second pick's far inferior, by the way, is because first pick not only gets to pick the first hero, but they also get to pick the last hero, which means that if they keep their mid pick for their last pick, then they can pick a good hero matchup for the mid roll. And if they do that, it gives them a big advantage. It's a really big thing. Like if you play an int hero mid and all of a sudden the opponent's like, haha, I'm going to pick OD, and OD is really good against int heroes, then you're just in a bad spot. Oh god. Reworked how all pick works in rank matchmaking. Picking starts after 35-second period. Teams alternate picking wait, what? Picking starts after a 35-second strategy period. Teams alternate picking. Whenever it is a team's turn to pick, anyone on that team can pick for themselves. Teams have up to 30 seconds to pick a hero. If the timer, this is like very different than what everybody is asking for on Reddit, to my knowledge. Teams alternate picking. Whenever it's a team's turn to pick, anyone on the team can pick for themselves. So basically someone can be like, time to pick Pudge, they pick Pudge, which I assume takes up their turn of picking. So if your team griefs you with Meepo first pick, you're going to have a bad time. Teams have up to 30 seconds to pick a hero. If the timer expires, each player that hasn't selected a hero will lose 2 gold per second. So it's basically encouraging you, like, you gotta pick, hurry up and pick. Selection will stay on the team until a hero is picked. Once the selection is made, immediately switches to the other team's pick. Yep. Initial starting team is random, but known at the start of the strategy period. If a team is not picked and continue losing gold for more than 30 seconds, a player that hasn't picked will be assigned a random hero, and the turn will resume the other team. Okay. Alright. So basically, it's like, all pick, there's no banning still, but at least you get to take turns picking, and therefore you can like actually counter pick and like pick good strategies that are a little bit more organized, rather than being like literally everybody spams who they're picking in the last second, which is honestly not a very good method for ranked matchmaking, I must say. So that'll be good. Lanes should be maybe a bit better, more likely. That'll be solid. Okay. I think people are still going to pick like idiots, but it seems like a good step. It's like a mix between captain's mode and all pick, and it should be like that for ranked. Sorry I'm so sick. I can like really hear that my voice sounds weird, but that is just what it's going to be like. Alright, Aegis duration increased from 6 minutes to 5. Did I say increased or decreased? It's supposed to be decreased. Means Roshan has less of an effect. Roshan's slam area of effect increased from 250 to 350, and the damage also increases by 20 every 4 minutes. This is very impactful because if you're taking Roshan with more than 3 melee units, Roshan will do slam move, and his slam move slows attack speed and does damage. If that increases in damage, that means that people that can generally cheese Roshan are less likely to be able to do it. That's not really the best way to describe it, but it basically hurts people that have AoE tankers to be able to Roshan, assuming they need them to be able to survive. If you're taking Roshan with something like an Enchantress, it doesn't matter, because Enchantress can reduce Roshan's attack speed, and you can just kill him eventually. But this will hurt heroes like Nature's Prophet doing Roshan. It'll hurt heroes like Lycan taking Roshan as well. Centaur Conqueror's Swiftness Aura has been moved to Hellbear Smasher. Interesting. Okay. So this improves the Hellbear Smasher. The Hellbear Smasher is the red one that does the clap that slows. The Swiftness Aura is the 15% attack speed aura. Basically, the Hellbear Smasher is bad, so it looks like they're buffing it. Hellbear Smasher attack time increased. Okay, so it means the attack's slower. The Hellbear must be the yellowish of the one. They both got nerfed in terms of attack time. The Centaur attack time is improved. Centaur Corsair, which is a smaller one, has been improved. Dark Troll Summoner's ensnare duration is increased by a slight amount. That's good. Satyr Banisher HP is increased. That's the smallest Satyr. The Satyr Banisher movement speed increased. That's good. The attack range is reduced from 600 to 300. That's the little one. Base attack time has improved. So basically the smallest one is like far superior. His Purge cast range is increased, which is good. And the Wilder Ripper's Toughness Aura now works on siege units, which is whatever. Fix some rare edge cases with pathing malfunction. I don't know. Following abilities can now be cast on spell immune allies. Ice Armor, Surge, Alacrity, Nature's Guise, that's Treant's Invis. Chakra Magic is Coddle's spell, Recall, Coddle spell, and Mist Coil. Oh, which is Abaddon's Heal. Okay. Okay. Buff to BKB heroes, I guess. The following buffs are now properly dispellable. Chilling Touch. I feel like... Alright, think about everything we just said. We're going to take a moment and blow my nose. Okay. I said sorry about this, guys, but I muted, so I'm sorry. It's probably not any better, but hopefully. Alright. Following buffs are now properly dispellable. Chilling Touch, Thunderstrike. That means you can remove those with like Yule Scepter, Diffusal Blade. Thunderstrike, Inner Vitality, that's Huskar's Heal. That's a cool one. Chaos Meteor damage, Shadow Word, which is... I don't know what Shadow Word is. I have no idea what spell that is. Liquid Fire, okay. Shadow Strike, which I believe is the Quap Dagger. Oh, Shadow Word is Warlock Heal. Yes. Warcry is Sven's AoE Concussive Shot is the slow from... Man, there's a lot of dispellable stuff. This means Diffusal Blade might be a lot better now. It's like super good. Overpower is that's good. You could use that against an Ursa, reduces attack speed. That'd be really good. Mana Leak you can dispel. Curse of the Silent you can dispel. Press the Attack you can dispel. Poison Touch you can dispel. Flame Guard. That's really good. Ooh, what a good... That's like, you could use a Diffusal Blade charge to remove a 400 magic shield on, or a 450, whatever it is, on Ember Spirit. That's cool. I like these mechanics changes. This is cool because it gives you ways, it gives you more ways to outplay somebody. So rather than saying like, oh, I need a Dagon to counter like his flame, just get a Diffusal Blade and I can just remove it in a team fight. Like that's really big. Whirling Death is the debuff from Timbersaw. Poison Attack is Viper's Poison Attack. Sticky Napalm, that's good. I like being able to remove that. That's cool. DK's Frostbath, whatever. Whirling Axes. Oh, I was thinking Beastmaster, but that's Troll. Okay. And Walrus Punch is slow. Some of those are really good to remove. I really like being able to repress the attack. Flame Guard. Some of these damage over time moves is really cool. Overpower removal is really cool. Things like that seem really cool. Dark Pack, Kraken Shell, Aphotic Shield, Press the Attack Time Lapse no longer have a special condition for purging the following otherwise unpurgeable spells: Poison Nova, Heaven's Halberd, and Snare, Eye of Scotty. So that means that those spells, which remove those debuffs, can now no longer do that, which is good. Venomancer was so bad versus Slark. And Slark, Dark Pact, it stopped working on Viper ulti, but they still didn't remove it from Venomancer ulti, and that's good that they changed that, because that was way too good. Venomancer was way too countered by that. If he Gales and ultis a Slark, Slark presses one button, and Venomancer dies, because like he used everything. So that's really good that they changed that. Ensnare, Eye of Scotty, Heaven's Halberd, that's fine. It means Ensnare, you could say, is a good counter against Slark, perhaps, because I think it gives vision. Alright, really good stuff. Hero time. Mistcoil mana rescaled. So this is a buff to Abaddon. He was actually receiving nerfs recently. It's cheaper at level 1. 50 mana is very, very low, so that's pretty cool. Alchemist Acid Spray, negative armor increase, buff to Alchemist. Anti-Mage base strength increased by 2, that's a difference of 38 HP, so that's about 1 right click. So decent buff to early game Anti-Mage. Axe's Counter Helix chance to activate increased from 17 to 20. It no longer ignores Lincoln Sphere. Okay, apparently it ignored Lincoln Sphere. I didn't know that. Aghanim Scepter Fiend's Grip now also causes anyone who attacks Banewalace channeling to be inflicted with Nightmare. Oh, how cool. That is so cool. Walace channeling to be inflicted with Nightmare. That is so cool. That is such a cool... What a cool idea. I really like that. That's so cool. This means that against heroes that don't have stuns, Bane is now better. So if you're against a carry PA, and you don't want to grip the PA, you can grip somebody else, and if he jumps on you, he's going to have trouble with that. If he has BKB, it doesn't matter, because he won't be put into Nightmare if he's Magic Immune. He can still damage you, but that means that if you're against a PA and a stunner, you can just grip the stunner, and PA actually can't stop you. He just has to wait. That's cool. I think that's a good change. It's like something that players can work around if they're good, but it also protects you as a hero. I think I'm going to start grinding Bane games as well. Like, I played him the other day and I had a lot of fun. I think I want to play him a lot more. It's really high skill capped, and he makes me feel, really feel good when I make the right plays, and it makes me feel like a piece of shit when I make the wrong plays, so it makes me want to try really hard. Flame and Lasso cooldown increase, so again, a nerf to Bat Rider, but it's a late game nerf, which is fine. Ooh, Wild Axe's damage type from composite to physical. They're slightly damage reduced. This is important because the way composite damage works is it's reduced by armor, and it's also reduced by magic, which means that in the early game it does a lot of damage because everybody's armor is really low and their magic resistance is generally standard. If it's only physical, that means you can, well, it's just generally composite damage ends up being worse late game because people are gonna usually either buy lots of armor items or they're also gonna buy magic resistance items, which sometimes happens. So if they get both, axes do very, very low damage. So this means that you can buy medallions on Beastmaster now. You could before, you could buy medallion before, but going with some kind of a minus armor strat is more viable now. Basically, I might be wrong. Maybe I'm thinking about the math in a wrong way. But what else? See if there's anything that's changed. Side knockback for Primal Roars is increased. The side damage is the same as the primary damage now. Okay. Decent, pretty good buff. The push distance is increased, and the side push duration increased. That means there's basically an AoE stun now of 0.6 seconds whenever you roar a guy. So, and it does better AoE damage. So it's a better AoE spell while still locking somebody important down. The axe is changing from composite to physical, means that they probably do the same to ancients, because ancients are magic immune, but I don't think they have magic resistance. So I'm not entirely sure why they're being changed to physical, but I feel like it's a buff, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it's a buff. Think about it this way. Think about the kinds of heroes that in the late game, they never get much armor. Let's say like Witch Doctor, for example. Witch Doctor in a late game scenario doesn't have much more than 5 armor, but he's always going to have 25% magic resistance, which means that if Wild Axes is only reduced by 160, or by 20 damage per axe, it means you're losing 40 damage total because of the nerf. But in a late game scenario, if you have an AC or something, and a Witch Doctor ends up having 0 armor, your Wild Axes suddenly do way more damage than they used to, because they used to be reduced by 5 armor, and they used to also be reduced by 25% magic resistance at all stages of the game. And that's why Wild Axes seem to do a lot more damage early game than late game. So this means that Wild Axes are buffed in terms of damage throughout the course of the game. Definitely very good early, but still also good late against players that don't have armor. So yeah, it's a nice little buff. Bloodseeker, remove from Captain's Mode. This always happens whenever a hero is completely changed, so this is not surprising at all. Reworked Blood Rage. Old Blood Rage increases base damage, silences, and deals damage over time. It also dispels the target. Buff cannot be dispelled. We know all this. Cast point, blah blah blah. New Blood Rage amplifies all damage taken and dealt, including spells. That means it sounds like Mask of Madness. A hero affected by Blood Rage buff who kills a unit will be healed for 25% of the dying unit's max HP. However, heroes affected by Blood Rage when killed will heal 25% of their max health to their killer. So it kind of sounds like dual. Alright, let me think about this again. Hero affected by it who kills a hero will be healed by 20% of the die. So if I have Blood Rage on and I kill somebody, I get healed by their HP. If I have it on and I die, whoever kills me will get healed. So that means, so basically, if you cast Blood Rage on yourself and you kill somebody, you heal. And if you cast Blood Rage on the person you want to kill and you kill him, you still heal. So basically, it allows you to heal either way, which is good, because it sounds like they're putting the heal into Blood Rage instead of having it be in Bloodbath. No longer dispels. The buff can be dispelled, which means you can remove it with BKB now. It probably still silences. It no longer silences, or does damage over time. It has a duration, it has an amp damage. Oh, I forgot an amp damage. That's good. Okay, so it amplifies damage. Has a very low cooldown, which means you can cast it on like multiple heroes in a fight. But you have to be careful, because if you cast it on somebody that kills somebody else, they get healed. So it sounds a little scary. The cast point's way low, 0.2 seconds. This is double the cast time. That's huge, really, really huge. But since it doesn't silence now, it's not as OP. Before, if you have a low cast point on a silence, then it's harder to like react to it properly, or to pop your BKB in time, for example. Not that, I mean, that counter silences, but can target spell immune, but spell immunity does remove it. So that means you can cast it on people that are BKB'd and they will take bonus damage. But if you cast it on somebody and then they BKB, the BKB removes it. And it doesn't silence you, so you can very easily BKB this off. So it's basically being used as a kill this guy, or a, God, I can't believe, you can cast it on yourself, but it increases your, wait, it amplifies their damage. Oh, I'm sorry. It's damage taken and dealt. Holy shit. So that means it makes you squishier, but it also does more damage with your right clicks and your spells. So you can basically amp damage your Lina, who has an Aghanims, and you can one-shot a man. That is interesting. But she also takes 40% more damage. So if you can, it's like an E-Blade, basically. What an interesting change. Very, very interesting. Replace Bloodbath with a new active ability, Bloodright. Targets an area, an effect that is visible to enemies appears on the ground after 3 seconds. Enemies area are damaged and silenced. So basically, if Rupture is still in the game, this is going to be comboed with Rupture. Area of effect is 600, cast range is huge, silence is 3 to 6 seconds, and it does pure damage. Cool. Mana cost is 100. There's the cooldown. You'll probably only grab... I can't imagine... Well, this spell is good with only one... Oh, it's 0 mana cost. I didn't even notice. Holy shit. Really interesting. Getting this down to a low cooldown sounds really good because the mana cost is 0 and the cooldown goes down so low. I feel like you could use it a lot. Very interesting, though. Bloodright doesn't look very good in terms of scaling. It looks pretty bad. That's not exactly true. 3 seconds you can do an AoE science up to 6 seconds. It's like mixing Krob silence in with a stun, with nuke damage. And 240 pure damage is like a 300 damage nuke, so that's pretty cool. You can combo this with Ravage. You can combo this with a lot of AoE stuns. It's actually pretty good. This might be worth maxing first. We'll see. Alright, Thirst is still in the game. Rupture is still in the game. Step slightly different. Thirst, Visibility, and True Sight are granted only when the target is at or below 30% HP instead of 50 or 25 for Vision and True Sight. I think that's fair. 50% was a little high. Thirst now shows a debuff and visible effect to the enemy when they are revealed. I think that's good. That's good. It's a little noob friendly, but whatever. It's fine. Thirst movement and damage bonuses are now proportional to how low the enemy's health is. Okay. Gradually provides the bonus from 0 to at 100. Okay, cool. I like this. Yeah, previously it applied full bonus at 50%, nothing above it, which means that if somebody was at 70% HP, you didn't get a bonus. They had to get below 50 for you to have damage, and I think that's a little weird. I think this is a much more comprehensive way to do it. If you do any damage to some guy, your damage goes up, and as you do more damage, you do more damage, and more damage, and more damage until they're almost dead. Thirst bonuses are independent from the vision granted at 30%. Yeah, exactly. Wait. How does this work? This is confusing. Thirst bonuses are independent from the vision granted at 30%. See, the way it worked before is if you could see somebody, you're getting the thirst bonus, so you've got bonus damage. But it says the bonuses are independent from the vision granted, which I was saying before, but it doesn't completely make sense. That means if somebody is low HP, let's say somebody's losing 30%, missing 30% HP, if they're anywhere on the map, does that mean Bloodseeker gets a bonus from it? Does that mean any hero missing any HP, Bloodseeker gets a bonus? Is this true? Speed and damage bonus increased. Does that mean that if a hero is missing 20% HP, which is 1/5, does that mean Bloodseeker gets 1/5 of this 40 damage, which is what's that divided by 5? It's like 8 or something. It's about that. 8, 16, 24, 36. It's a little bit more than 8. A little bit more than 8. So does that mean Bloodseeker gets 8 damage if any hero on the map is missing 20% HP? If so, it's interesting. I guess it doesn't feel overpowered. It's only 20%. It's not a huge amount. He was getting 40 for them being below 50. Interesting. I like this. Me and Zeus Bloodseeker sounds cool. You just ulti and all of a sudden Bloodseeker's like, got 40 damage. Let's party. Rupture no longer deals initial damage. Duration is increased massively. Wow. 7, 8, 9 to 12, and the cooldown is reduced to 60 at all levels. Interesting. So, this encourages him to gank, number 1. He's kind of a team fight hero now because he has an AoE silence. He's good at focusing people because he has the new Blood Rage, which amps damage to himself and his output and all this good stuff. Rupture probably scales the same at all levels now. It just is less good for bursting people down, but what you do is you rupture somebody, and then immediately afterwards you cast Bloodright, which is the AoE nuke silence, and then you run into melee range and you punch him until he dies. So you'll rupture, they'll run a little bit to dodge the Bloodright, and when they dodge Blood Right, they'll take Rupture damage, and then hopefully Blood Right still hits them, but it may not. So we'll see how that plays out. Really interesting changes. I like them. They're cool. Strike and Toss now bounces to all tracked units within a 900 range. That is cool. What a cool Bounty Hunter buff. It's this is cool because Bounty Hunter has bad team fight implications. He's very much a solo hero. The way he implicates team fights is that if you get track kills, you get gold, and with that gold, you can buy better items, which means that Bounty Hunter literally is just an item. He's like an item getter for your team. He's like, here, buy more items because I'm sure as hell not helping in this team fight. So now you have an extra 500 gold that you can buy a no talisman. Congratulations, this is my team fight help. So cool. Most of the time, you don't get that many tracks off before a fight starts, less than 3 or something. 900 range is really big, so there's a good chance of you being able to Shrek and Toss, which is 300 magic damage to like 3 or 4 heroes, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. Drunken Baller's critical strike evasion timer increased from 10 to cool. I like this. I wish the nerf was heavier than this. I'm honestly really surprised that the nerf is this minor, because I don't feel like the Drunken Baller's critical strike evasion timer was. I just feel like Brewmaster is really good at laning. I guess there's a lot of nerfs that could hit Brewmaster that would kind of kill him, and maybe the reason that he wasn't super nerfed was because the metagame is going to change now because of the map changes, the Roshan changes, the tower gold changes. There's a lot of changes coming in from what I hear and what I've seen so far, so maybe it's better to not nerf a hero that is just really good at this metagame, and to just nerf something that was maybe a little too good, the Drunken Baller critical strike thing, evasion timer, etc. Alright. Spin Web now has 1, 2, 3, 4 charges with the 40-second replenish time. This is good. Somebody recommended this on Reddit. It's really smart because it means that if you want to go to a new lane, and let's say you've been sitting in a lane for a long time and you have 8 webs up, if you want to go to a new lane, it takes forever to replenish a new web set, and also to replenish webs that like get out of line. Like if you web somewhere else and you break your like big line of webs, to like replace all the webs that used to be there, it takes the cooldown going through like 4 times, and it was really counterintuitive. Like really hurt Broodmothers rotating, so that's kind of good. Time to enter hidden mode after taking damage increased from 3 to 6 seconds. Movement speed bonus is doubled when our Broodmothers in hidden mode. Okay, I like that. Spin web phasing and speed bonuses now work on Spiderlings. Sounds scary. Sounds really scary. Spin webs are now selectable and have an ability to destroy themselves. Why would you want to? Oh, I was like, why would you want to do that? But the reason is because what I said before. If you place a web in some random area, and then you continue to place webs, that web's going to stay up until it's the last one, the oldest one up before it'll be destroyed. So if you place a web in a weird area, but you don't want to kill your big chain of webs, you can just destroy that web. So that's cool. They can be cast from anywhere as long as the new web touches another. Interesting. Okay, so anywhere on the map you can just make webs. That's good. So you can do upkeep while you're going back to base or something like that. I like that. That's interesting. Whenever he's taking out a spin web's free pathing, she destroys nearby trees. Good. So you can't be caught in trees anymore. I like that. Stampede mana cost increase. Slight Centaur nerf. Chaos Knight Phantom Illusion duration increased from 24 to 34. I just posted a Chaos Knight video. I feel like this is going to be a pretty big buff. It's going to allow him to siege towers a lot better. Or at the very least, he'll be able to split push better. Because sieging towers where people are throwing nukes at him, the illusions are going to die. But now what it allows you to do is, if you're solo, you can spawn your illusions, and you can actually just kill towers. I did that once in the game. I think yesterday I remember I was going for the tier 2 bottom. I ultied for it, I think, and I tried to take the tower, and my illusions just kind of ran out and died. I felt a little underwhelmed by that, so I kind of like this buff. Penitence duration rebalance from 5, 6, 7, 8. That's his first skill. The slow and damage amplification is rebalanced, so it's better at level 1, worse at level 4, and it now amplifies the damage source directly instead of attempting to re-deal a percentage of the damage taken as physical damage. Cast range increase. So it actually amps the damage instead of attempting to re-deal a percentage of the damage taken. So before, the way it worked was, to my knowledge, was, let's say you do 100 damage to somebody, it would then do 32 physical damage to them afterwards. I assume, based on the wording here and my knowledge before, I know it wasn't a very good skill. It seems it would just do physical on top. But now if it's a damage amp, that means, I don't know how the mechanics work. I'm not going to go into that, because I might be wrong. I was going to say that it amplifies pure damage with more pure damage, but I might be wrong about that. I don't know exactly how the numbers work, how the mechanics work. It's definitely complicated, so I'm not going to comment on that. But it sounds like it's a better skill by quite a bit. I think people are still going to max out Test of Faith first, because it's pure damage. Maybe not. We'll see. They'll probably still max out Test of Faith first. It's no longer persuasion is no longer restricted from targeting. Yep, I'm gonna sneeze. I lied to you. That was a cough. Oh my god. But I don't look too sickly. Okay. Cast range increase. Holy Persuasion no longer restricted from targeting spell immune neutral creeps. That doesn't mean ancients. There's no way that means ancients. Ancients are spell immune neutral creeps, aren't they? There's no way that you can take ancients. There's no way. It'd be way too good. There's no way. Ancients have 2,000 HP. There's no way you could roll into the Ancients and be like, 30 seconds, time to push. My creep, it's got more HP than your tower, but let's push. Let's go. Aghanim Scepter now allows Holy Precision to target Ancient creeps. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Allows it to target Ancient creeps. Maximum 1 Ancient creep per level of Hand of God. What the... What the fuck is appropriate here? I'm gonna say... That is so cool. Oh my god, that's so cool. Eggs every time now. Eggs was almost worth it before. Oh, that's so cool. Which ones are the best? Probably not the dragon. The dragons used to be able to fly over the map. If they could still fly unhindered, those would be the best. I feel like they're pretty slow as well. The best are probably I almost think the Thunder Lizard, because the Thunder Lizard both is an AoE nuke, and it also has like a Frenzy and attack fast ability. So I feel like the Thunder Lizards are going to be very good. The large golems have a ton of HP. This is cool. What a cool change. Makes Aghanims definitely viable. Definitely viable. Aghanims is already almost good. It's definitely good now. Plus you can, oh god, if you can full heal them with Hand of God, oh my god, that sounds so OP. That sounds OP. I'm saying it, it's OP. Like, remember, Hand of God full heals your creeps. So if you have a 2,000 HP creep, and you hit level 11, and you have two 2,000 HP creeps, and you're hitting a tower, and all of a sudden you're like, 2,000 HP heal, and it's every 30 seconds. It's every 30 seconds, guys. That's too good. If it was every 120 seconds, I'd be like, whatever. But when you get eggs, it's every 30 seconds. That sounds too good. I think this sounds too good. Time to practice Chen, guys. Like, that sounds way too good. That sounds way too good. I think that's too good. Clink's Searing Arrow no longer an attack modifier. Wasn't that kind of close to that already? I thought they buffed it to that. Apparently not. Searing Arrow is no longer an attack modifier. No longer an attack modifier. You can get Lifesteal, you can get Diffusive Blade. Lifesteal is probably going to be the best though, because you can crit so hard. You do so much damage. You could already get Scotty. You can get Diffusive Blade, you can get Lifesteal, you can get Desolator. No, Desolator is probably going to be the best. Maybe you'll get Desolator instead of Daedalus and you'll go take towers really fast. I could see that happening. Interesting. Clockwork Hookshot now pulls Clockwork to neutral creeps normally like any unit. I think this maybe should have been like that. First things first, like, if you would accidentally misclick on a neutral instead of a hero, it would just cancel, it wouldn't work. And it wouldn't at least pull you close to the hero. You could maybe see it as a little too abusive, because you could, if you can hookshot from Clockwork to the Ancient camp, that feels a little overpowered, or Clockwork to the Roshan camp, that seems a little overpowered in the offlane. But, I guess it wastes his cooldown at least. Crystal Main and Frostbite damage interval 70 per 1 second to 50 per 0.5 seconds. Okay, big buff to her damage. This is a lot, by the way. Also, it means that her ability scales better. It used to scale. Still has 10 seconds on neutral creeps. Cool. So it's an overall buff. Means Frostbite neutrals is going to probably one-shot them now. Before, you'd have to right-click them a lot. But now you do an extra 30 damage per second. So that means that if it lasts 10 seconds, you're doing... Is that right? 10 seconds, 100. It does 1,000 magic damage to neutrals. It used to do 700. Which means that any neutral will now die, to my knowledge. I think they're all like 950 HP. Is that right? MX, 900 MX, something like that. It means Crystal Maiden can now Frostbite a neutral without having to right click, so that means it makes her job easier in terms of jungling, number 1. Number 2, the damage scale is much better. At level 1, instead of doing 140 damage, it does 150 damage. At level 2, instead of doing 140 damage, now it does 200 damage. At level 3, instead of doing 210 damage, it now does 250 damage. And at level 4, instead of doing 210 damage, it does 300 damage. It used to do 140, 140, 210, 210. Now it actually scales. Like, it actually scales and makes sense. At least it's more easily makes sense. So, cool buff to Crystal Maiden. Her Frostbite is now her highest damage nuke out of all of them, which is interesting. Crystal Maiden definitely suffered from lack of damage output. Vacuum cooldown rescaled. What a joke. Oh shit, what is this? You trolled me, Ice Frog. What is this? The joke was that Vacuum was like, oh, that's cool, they vacuumed the words. That Vacuum was constantly buffed and nerfed until Darkseer was in a good place, and this is just a joke saying we still think Darkseer is in the right place. So what a fucking cheeky way to explain it. Aghanim Scepter Weave armor reduction per second increased. I think this is good. Whenever I get Aghanims on Dazzle, I feel it's so underwhelming. I'm like, this item is not even that useful. It like really doesn't feel that good. This item is OP if you teamfight at the right times, but it's really difficult to teamfight at the right times, and I feel like there's so many better items than Aghanim Scepter on Dazzle. I feel like this isn't even going to make a big enough difference. Death Prophet Exorcism cooldown increase, big nerf to Death Prophet, so she can teamfight less often. I think this is needed. Death Prophet's, her ultimate is too good right now. The rest of her hero I think is fine, but her ultimate is too good. Doom now requires Aghanim Scepter to disable passive, and Doom's ability cast point increase. That means to cast spells, including Devour, Level Death, and Doom, it now takes more time, which is good. This means that when Doom blinks in, and he level deaths and then he dooms, or when he blinks in and dooms, it takes a little more time. So it gives you more reaction time to be able to stop him from doing this. It's very, very minor nerf to Doom, but it means that if your opponents are good, and they have Rubik or stuns or whatever, they can react faster. They can pop BKBs first, they can phase shift, they can blink, they can do a lot of stuff. So this is a cool nerf to Doom without, like, forcing him to be completely screwed. And also the Aghanim Scepter disabling passives, that means, things like reactive armor. I don't know if reactive armor gets doomed off, but like backtrack would get doomed off, evasion would get doomed off. Like, there's a lot of things that it would counter, and I think at least the passive removal is a good start. Also buff to Aghanim Scepter, kind of. Not really. It's like a nerf and then allowing it to buff, I guess. Dry Range or Frost Range arrow slow increased, so they're better at level 1, which I think is good because it was a little underwhelming at level 1. Still the same at level 4. Added Aghanim Scepter grants him a new ability, Enchant Remnant, which lets him temporarily convert a hero into Stone Remnant. What? Oh, interesting. Oh, it's so weird. Allied or enemy. Target behaves like a Stone Remnant fully until the duration is over. Interesting. When the duration ends, Remnant shatters, releasing the hero while dealing 300 damage in a 300 radius. What's the duration? What's my duration? Oh, 3 seconds. Duh. Okay. They're invulnerable. They can use with those other skills. Alright, first things first. You can make one of your allies invulnerable for 3 seconds, and you can push them away from the team fight. That's the first thing. So you could look at it like a Shadow Demon. That's pretty good. Good buff, in some ways. And then it's like Phoenix Ulti, kind of, except they actually can't die. Second point, you can use it for initiations. Turn somebody into a rock, punch them in, they explode, they stun, then they ravage, or whatever. I assume that you can turn them into a remnant, and you can use the spinny thing to, like, run away with them. Except that kills the remnant, usually. I assume that he'll teleport to where it finishes. I don't know for sure. But a cool change to make him more relevant in the late game, which is where he needs a little help. Now, I don't play Earth Spirit. I know that he's still overpowered if you're good at him, but the average win ratio on him is horrible. Boulder Smash unit targets now only select units. I don't know what that means. Point targeting now knocks back the closest remnant within 200 area effect in the direction selected. Okay. Wait. Does this mean that your orientation doesn't have to be correct, or it just automatically goes the right way? It might mean that it only goes the right way, which means he should be easier to play. Silence rebalanced. Worse at late game. I think that's fine. Damage is buffed. Worse at level 1, actually. but becomes the same at level 3. And the pull speed on allies reduced by a huge amount. Okay, I think that's fair. Remnant drop range reduced. Being able to travel as a projectile through Chronosphere, that's fair. Not appear in a fog of war. Okay. Magnetized search radius increased from 300 to 400. I think this just means that if you play... Magnetized search radius increased from 300 to 400. That's good. I think it was a little too small. That's like when you first cast it. It's a little small. And the remnants disappear after 8 seconds instead of 5. Okay. Which allows you to use them, basically. Alright. Fissure no longer has unit target. Interesting. And no longer is blocked by Lincoln's Sphere. Oh, okay. That's fair. Well, okay. The first one was a nerf. The second one was a buff. And I was like, why are they buffing it if they're nerfing it? That didn't make sense to me. So basically Fissure is becoming like the Nyx stun. Which, when Nyx stun happened, everybody was like, oh, that's bad, but it's good because now like when you would click on heroes and then they'd move and then it wouldn't do the AoE stun of your dreams that you thought it was going to do. It did a solo stun instead. It was like depressing. You're like, oh, I wanted it to be right there, not like slayed to the side. And I think for Fissure this is better because being able to block perfectly is now something you can actually do because you can target the ground. You don't target a hero and have him move. If he moves, it's like, oh, my beautiful Fissure now doesn't block. It actually messes up everything. So now you can click exactly where you want and get the Fissures that you exactly want. The only hampering is delay now. So I think this is a good change to him. The reason it's not blocked by Lincoln's Sphere now is for continuity reasons. The same thing worked. Like, Lincoln's Sphere should block things that are targeting you, and Fissure would happen to work because you could target it. Same reason why I assume Earth Spike doesn't work. But now it shouldn't break Lincoln's Sphere because you can't actually get targeted. So it's a continuity thing. Lincoln's is really nice against Fissure before. Elder Titan added Aghanim Scepter, caused units that are pulled in by Earth Splitter to be disarmed in addition to being slowed. Slow disarm duration increased. Okay, so the slow is increased. And the disarm, which is going to be added, is also increased. He's also getting a buff to have lower levels of natural order, so you may not need to level it as much early game now. So 1 point is equivalent almost to 2 points. And the magic resistance reduction is increased to be better at level 1 as well. So natural order buffed at the first skill point, which is probably reward to making Elder Titan a support, and Aghanim Scepter maybe lets him go a little bit better like him. Enchantress buff by 5 movement speed, which is whatever. I mean, Chen got so many buffs. Enchantress seem to be better as than Chen right now, so maybe that's why she needed a buff. I don't know. Enigma's gonna get some big nerfs. Midnight Pulse cooldown increased. That's his third skill. It's really good right now. Black Hole that max damage rebalance. Better late game. Worse early game. Black Hole max damage area of effect increase. Okay, so it does more damage the closer you are. Well, it does more damage in the middle, but they're making the middle bigger, basically. And the Black Hole minimum damage rebalance, so it does less damage at range. But still at max level, it still does more. So it makes it worse at level 6 if you're catching people on the edge. And the minimum damage area of effect reduced from 500 to 400. Does that mean the overall AoE is bigger? Minimum damage area of effect reduced from 500 to 400. I don't know. I don't think that means that the AoE is smaller. Oh, I think this is being reduced because this is being increased. I might be wrong. I don't know. It's not super clear. Black Hole mana cost rebalanced from these to these. So it's less mana late game, which I think is a good thing. Like, it is a buff to Enigma, but people wouldn't even level up the damn skill, and that's counterintuitive in a lot of ways, and that annoyed me personally. Maybe that's why they did it. I don't know. It's more mana at level 1, though, so that means you have to be even more careful with mana. Oh, this is going to feel good. Faceless Void. About to get the Banhammer. Area of effect reduced from 450 to 425 for Chronosphere. God, this is going to be so not major. Flying Vision area reduced from 1000 to 425. That's when he uses Time Walk. The Flying Vision is huge. And Chronosphere no longer disables passives. Wow, big nerf. Chronosphere's effects no longer linger for an extra 0.5 seconds like normal auras do at the end of its duration. Okay, cool. That's why it was lingering, because it had an extra, because it was an aura. Yeah, it was like triggered as an aura. So, interesting. I never thought of it as an aura. I thought of it as like something that was physical. Passives that it disables that are super big. Backtrack. Evasion is the main one. Evasion is the main one. That means heroes like PA aren't as hard countered by Faceless Void. If you Chronos her, she dies. If a Windrunner gets chronoed while using Windrun, she would die. But now she can use Windrun and counteract the Chronosphere. So that means evasion items. I don't know if that applies to evasion items, but it definitely applies to evasion passive. So here's like PA and Brewmaster are going to be better off. I don't know if this is going to apply to butterflies though, or Heaven's Halberds. But if it does also apply to that, that means that those items are going to be better against Faceless Voids. Homing Missile maximum damage increase, so it's been buffed again. They really want people to level this up. It's a big nuke now. Look at that, 500 magic damage. That's so big. That's so much damage. If you cast it a couple times in a team fight and it goes off and it does 300 damage, it's kind of cool. Hellscar getting some changes. Inner Vitality cooldown reduced, lower at level 4. Berserker's Blood attack speed increased at low level with 1 point. Life Break cooldown reduced on all levels down to 12 seconds, and the damage is reduced from 50 to 35. So Aghanim's does a massive buff. Huge damage buff, 35 to 65. But it's worse at level 1, and the self-damage rebalance to 35 at all levels. So it actually does an equal amount of damage to yourself as to them. Unless you get Ags, then it's really good in your favor. And the slow duration rebalanced, worse at level 1. And the slow is also rebalanced a little bit. So basically, big nerfs to Life Break. It doesn't guarantee your kill if you use it, like it kind of did before, unless they had an escape or something. So it's worse at level 1. Aghanim's is really kind of worth it, but it is actually better at low cooldown. So I forgot about that. So it's worse, but you can cast it twice in a team fight now, like you couldn't before. But it still does a lot of damage to you, so you got to be kind of careful. Interesting. You don't have to get Ags to get the cooldown low if you're pre-16 as well. Tornado Flying Vision area reduced, and tornado damage is now 3 times Wex instead of including both the Quas. 2 Wex plus Quas. Let me think. Early game. So early game tornadoes do less damage. It's basically a tornado nerf all around, except for late game. Late game it does... No, it's not true. It actually does less late game. Because 2 times that. Alright, so let's say earliest maximum. Wex plus Quas. Max Wex and Quas you can have a 7. So it'd be 14 times 2. So it'd be 2 times 14, which is 28. And now it's 3 times Wex, which was maximum 7. What did I say? It was 28. 14 times 2 is 28. 7 times 3 is 21. So it's less. Early game less as well. Less all around. I know it does more than 28, but I think that gets multiplied by something else as well, or it gets added to like some numbers. Can't remember. Dual breath movement and attack speed slow rebalanced. Better at level 4, worse at level 1. Whatever. That's probably just a punch to heroes that only get 1 level of dual breath early. Following abilities no longer cancel Blade Fairy. Chronosphere, Toss, Black Hole, Global Silence, Doom. I think that's fair. It was a little peculiar that they did do that before. Black Hole would stop it. Like, it was kind of OP because you could prevent him from being magic immune. It was like a counter to his magic immunity. Not as much as it was about stopping the damage, as about being like, oh, we want to stun this guy. Well, time to Black Hole, you Black Hole him, he can't spin anymore, then you just nuke him and he dies. So I think that's a fair buff. Blade Fairy cooldown decreased at as it scales, better at late game. Keep it like mana removal percentage increased to 5 at all levels. So that means it it scales duration. So that means by skilling up this ability, I assume the cooldown goes down, and the mana leak duration goes up, I assume. Repel can now target vulnerabilities such as Song and Sight. Interesting. That's interesting. It's unlikely that somebody... Who else is invulnerable? That's about it. I mean, I'm thinking of like Bane Sleep and stuff, but... Blinding Light and Knockback Distance increased as well, so... Cuddle kind of needed a buff. He was unplayed at this last TI, despite being really strong the year or two before. A little surprised about... I guess... This is good. It's going to be good with 1 skill point, essentially. So he may grab it more often now. And it does a stun, so I don't know. X marks the spot cooldown is going to scale differently. I don't know why. I don't understand this. I guess Kunkka is not overpowered right now. He's played a little, so I'm a little surprised, but whatever. Ooh, Legion Commander enabled in Captain's mode. Duel no longer disables passives. I did not know that it did. That means PA is going to be pretty good against Legion. Overwhelming odds. Base damage is nerfed at level 1. Nerfed at all levels. I think this is fine. Like, it was too good. It was like a freaking Echo Slam. Press attack mana cost is higher at all levels. I think this is fair. Legion Commander is good. You guys might say that she seems fine because you play her in pubs, but I think a lot of pub players play her wrong. If you play her in a mid-roll or by somebody that's good and they get a lot of duels off, it's really scary. And overwhelming odds is a little too good. And the press attack mana cost thing I think is fine. Because I think they made overwhelming odds only 100 mana at all levels before, so she probably has too much mana now. Leshrac Pulse Nova. Oh my god, he get buffed again. Oh my god. Pulse Nova damage increased for the first 2 levels. Aghanim Scepter damage goes up massively between levels 1 and 2, but it actually does nothing for the last level, which is really surprising to me. It maybe did a bit too much late game. I just played him recently and I thought it was overpowered as well. It felt really good. I also like the activation cost going down. I think this is really good for the first level because it's a fantastic ultimate now, but the mana cost to just activate it is huge. It's like 20 mana per second. It's 20 mana per second level 1, but it costs 110 just to turn the damn thing on. And it does 60 damage per second, I think, at level 1, something like that. It's really good. Oh, it says it right here. It was 80. It was 80 damage at level 1. Now it does 100 damage at level 1. Like, you can't skip this ability anymore. It does 100 magic damage per second for 20 mana. It's such a good exchange. That's 5 mana, or 5 damage per mana. Most spells are like 3 damage per mana, something around there, or a little more than, or it's like 2 damage per mana. This is like one of the highest damage per mana spells in the entire game, by far. It has to be. It's really good. 100. That's amazing. Either way, the Aghanim Scepter is still just as good at level 60, and they just didn't make it better. It was as good as it was the last patch, so we shouldn't complain about it, basically. It's just better early game, essentially, than it used to be. I think, even on a support Leshrac, it might be worth getting this ability. The problem is still tankiness, but it is 100 damage per second. I don't know. And it's 40 less mana, so you can channel it for an extra 2 seconds than you could before. With good mana... God, this video is so long. With good mana conservation, you can do a good job with this, I feel. Alright, Lich Ice Armor now slows range heroes for the full amount instead of half. Okay. Ice Armor buff, it's fine. Light Strike Array cast range increased. That's fine. And the stun duration increased. I didn't know that it scaled. It now stuns for 2.2 seconds at level 4. That's really good. Really big stun increase. Leshrak's stun, his Split Earth is 2 seconds at all levels, so Lena's is a bit better, more equivalent now. Lion Earth Spike damage buffed at level 1. I think this is good. Especially when I see lions that don't know how to skill build and they spam level 1 stun all the time. That's really frustrating. Lone Druid Spirit Bear now has 300 mana. You don't have to buy Arcane Boots anymore. You can actually do Medic Bear. Medic Bear is actually legit. You could do it with just a mech. Interesting. What else can you buy? Dagon, Shiva's Guard, Mjolnir is a really good example. Mjolnir Bear is going to be very common now because it's not a pain in the butt to swap it. So Mjolnir Bear is literally going to be common. I think that will be the build now. I think we'll go back to Mjolnir Bear. Maybe not Radiance again. Because you can even split push lanes now. You can like group up all the creeps, like pull 2 creep waves together so you have 10 creeps, and then you just activate Mjolnir, and then the Mjolnir will kill the creeps. So I think Mjolnir will probably be core on Bear now. It already doesn't count as an orb. Well, it's an orb, but his Entangle doesn't count as an orb, so you could go back to Maelstrom. So I think Mjolnir is going to be the way to go, because it's an attack speed item. Attack speed is good because it gives you more bear procs. It's all around going to be better than Radiance, I feel. Except for the whole split push, because it has mana now, it can split push. So it also can't... The other problem is that you can't chase heroes down. But I think it's going to be better now. It doesn't give a huge amount of damage, so it's still not very good against Enfeeble, but I think in all other situations, Mjolnir's going to be the way to go, and Lone Druid for sure. Spirit Prayer using hit minus now grants experience to the Lone Druid. That's really cool too. That's a good change. It was honestly just kind of a pain in the butt. Really just a pain in the butt. Shapeshift no longer grants 1.5 base attack time, so he attacks slower as a nerf to Lycan. His cooldowns increased at all levels. Pretty big nerf. Speeding's increased Oh, you run faster now. Okay, cool. And he has a 1.5 second transformation time. Wow. That's huge duration. Huge duration. 1.5 seconds. 1/1000th there. It's like pretty big. It's pretty big. Cooldown is bigger. The movement speed is faster to compensate for the transformation time. So interesting change. The cooldown's a big nerf. Speed increase is a pretty big buff. It doesn't give as much attack speed, and the transformation time is huge. So we'll see how big of an impact this makes. I really wish they nerfed the wolves though. I feel like the wolves are still a little too good. I feel like they shouldn't have 95% magic resistance. It should be like 80 or something, 90. I don't know. And power no longer removed by spell immunity, so we might see Magnus Lifestealer again. And the mana cost is scaling a bit differently. It's probably fine. I mean, they changed this in the first place because it was the time when Lifestealer was the most popular carry, and Empower with him was just ridiculous. So I think this is probably going to be okay. Popular carries right now are, I don't know, a lot of teamfight heroes, so maybe this will push back towards hard carry rather than just like teamfight carries. Mana Shield damage absorption rate increased from 50 to 60%, so buff to Mana Shield, it'll go through a lot faster. Mystic Snake outgoing speed increased from 6. This, by the way, this means that you're going to run out of mana more often than HP, whereas in the past you would usually run out of both at about the same time. So, interesting change. Mystic Snake outgoing speed increased, which is good. The return speed is slightly nerfed, which is fine. And the Mana Steal increased as well. So, Snake buffs. Meepo's clones boots. Item slots now match whatever slot Meepo Prime has his boots in. Okay, so that's just a micro buff. So for example, if I put my boots in like my 4 hotkey, which is like my lower middle one, my other Meepo boots hotkey will always be in my upper left one because that's where their boots was. So that means I would have to use my Alt Q hotkey, or I would have to, yeah, I'd basically always have to put my boots of travel on Alt Q, which is where I mean that's technically my fault for having Alt Q on that hotkey, but it's a buff to Meepo players basically. It's like a thank you for playing Meepo. Sorry we made it so hard before. It's basically leap speed reduced, leap distance rebalanced as well. So it's nerfed at low level and better at late game, which seems fine. I think the reduction in speed is good. It was a little fast before. Treant magic resistance reduced from 20% to 0. So again, nerf to pushing. Nature's Prophets Treants are gonna die. Way easier to nukes. Way easier. Reaper spawn, Reaper size added respawn time penalty from 30% to a constant 30 seconds. Okay. Was it always like this or just with Ags? I guess it's always like this. So if you ulti somebody, it increases your respawn by 30%. Now it just does 30 seconds, which means in the early game, it's a huge amount. In the late game, it's still a huge amount. Because let's say your timer is like 70 seconds on average. 30% of that is like 21. So 30 seconds is big. Even late game, this is big. So it means that you can take one hero out of the game for a bit. A ganking Necrolite or Necrophos is actually a really big deal in terms of tactical advantage. 190 attack speed increased, better late game. Darkness duration increased at early levels. So Night Stalker has more nighttime uptime, which is pretty cool. It's that time, guys. I'm sorry, but I have to leave you for a second here. God, this patch is so long, but I'm enjoying it. God, I look so bad right now. Fuck. Sorry. I had like Three Stooges hair for a second there. It looked ridiculous. Alright, back to Dota! Ogre Magi base HP regen increased. Whoa, that's a big buff. Holy crap, dude. What a support here. It doesn't even need tangos anymore. God, that's 2 HP. That's a frickin' ring of regen. It's like, here, Ogre Magi. 350 gold? No, it's on the house. Just go. God, that's... Alright, what the main purpose of buffing this, in my opinion, is that... we'll go over the other stuff, then I'll talk about it. Fire Blast damage reduced at late game. At all levels, actually. Reduced at all levels. 2 times multicast chance increase, so it's better at level 1. Well, basically, once he hits 6, he has a 40% chance of hitting it. which is why they reduced it. This hurts his early game, his pre-6 game, but it makes his after-6 game probably better, because it's a 15% increased chance to multicast, which means we could translate that to a 15% increase in damage, which is, we'll say, like, we'll do the math on this one. 10% is 24, so adding 24 and then 5. It's basically like, it does the same chance once you're level 6, but pre-6 you do less damage, which slightly confuses me because it's counterintuitive compared to this. Multicast speed interval increased, which means that when you do multicast your Fire Blast, they'll be overall stunned for a higher amount of time, which is pretty good, I think. Also, the Fire Blast, or the Ignite one will be good because people are generally spread more often during the time that you cast it, so it might be able to get more heroes then, I think. Okay. So the base HP regen buff is really cool because it allows you to gank more as Ogre Magi, and this is really good for Ogre Magi because you're saying, like, well, why does he need HP regen if he's ganking? Well, it's because he's going to be diving towers, and the hero is very good at diving towers because he has one of the highest strength gains in the whole game, and he has super high armor. It's like 7 or 8 armor at level 1 when you get Iron Man branches, so his tankiness is insane. You can dive towers like crazy, which means that after you dive towers, you've got all this passive regen, which means you don't have to go back to base. You can continue ganking rather than going back to base. So Ogre Magi may see more play as a heavy roamer. The only problem is that they nerfed Fire Blast damage in their early game, which might encourage you to level Ignite even more than Fire Blast in the early game now, because Ignite didn't get nerfed in the early game. Well, pre-6, Ignite is better, guaranteed now. It does more damage per skill point, but after 6, Fire Blast does equivalent as it did before. So I still am going to say that the 4-2-4-2 skill build is best. You get 2 Fire Blasts, you get 2 Ignites, and you gank with it at level 4 because you're tanky. You've now got a lot of regen. I think that's going to be the best way to play Ogre Magi. You could argue that Ignite is better than it used to be, but it's still... Fire Blast is still so good because it's a stun. It's still such a bad ability in terms of damage. 240 is so bad at level 4. So bad. But if you multicast it, it's cool. Whatever. Omni-Knight buffed 1 armor increase. Purification damage, area of effect increased slightly. Omni-Knight is going to become really annoying soon. That hero is very good against certain things. Outworld Devour, Essence or a chance to activate increased to 40% all levels, but now it's going to change the percentage it heals, which I assumed as soon as I looked at it. This is good. They've changed some abilities like this in the past year or two. This is awesome because it makes the hero less chancy, and also it feels like your skill points matter. Like, it's like, oh, I have a point into Essence or did it proc? Nope. Well, that point was a complete waste. It did give you increased mana pool before, but it's good that they're giving you some heal back from it, like, or some regen back from it. I think that's good. 10 to 25% scaling. I think this is good. It means that it's more likely to do something at level 1, and that means that if you want to do something with OD and a dual or tri-lane, not saying that's good by any means, it's more likely to function. Aghanim Scepter, Sanity Clips always triggers a mana drain. That's very good. Alright, his Aghanim Scepter is now good now. Before it was horrible. I think it's actually viable now, because draining 80% of some heroes' mana pools is ridiculously good. Whenever you're playing like carry Leshrac and you rely on your mana pool to pull Snowball a lot, he just ulties you, you're like, well, I was going to do something in that fight. Or Queen of Pain is a good example. Needs a mana pool to be able to team fight. Storm Spirit needs a mana pool to team fight. Like, if you just grab Aghanims, no matter how far behind, you can drain his combat effectiveness, and that's really cool. Blur Minimap Hide now is the opposite effect, and it's active when no enemies are near. Okay, so that means that when PA is running through wards, she's not on the minimap, which is cool. Before, she would not be on the minimap when she was farming a lane near enemies, or near like creeps, and that was a little counterintuitive, I feel. PL is removed from Captain's mode because it's being changed. Agility gain, heavy nerf, base agility buff, and base strength buff. Alright, reworked. Spirit Lance, unchanged. So his first skill is still the same. Phantom Rush, a passive basic ability for Phantom Lancer is illusions to quickly close the distance to an enemy. Passive with cooldown. Triggers when issuing an attack order on the enemy unit outside of attack range. Grants bonus movement speed and phase until Phantom Lancer strikes his target. Minimum distance to trigger is 300. That's big. It's like half of an attack range. Maximum distance to trigger is 600 to 900. Cooldown is 4 at level 4. Illusions also have the passive. How much movement speed is it? Does it say? It doesn't say. It says phase, but is it like phase boots? It doesn't say. It really should say, but it doesn't say. It doesn't say what the movement speed is. We won't know until we get it in the game and try it out, but it looks like it's pretty good. It basically means that your illusions are better able to chase people without needing to rely on Diffusal Blade or Spear Lance. And also, they're less likely to collide with each other. And keep in mind, though, his agility gain was heavily nerfed here. This is a big difference. Over the course of 20 levels, that's 24 agility or something like that. 24 agility is like 24% attack speed, and 24, well, it's like 30% of 24. It's like 10 damage or something. A little bit less than that. It's a pretty big nerf to his damage, so his illusions will be better able to chase now, which is probably what the hero should have been like before, whereas before it was just kind of like a mob of dudes. Maybe it'll be harder to play against now. It very likely could be. Anyways, Doppelganger, a new ability for dodging immediate danger and confusing enemies with saving illusions. Targeted area Phantom Master and all nearby illusions will disappear for 1 second, then have their position shuffled into the target area. This also creates 2 illusions of opposite types. God, that's going to be confusing. Illusion 1 deals 0% damage and takes 100% damage. And Illusion 2 deals 20% damage and takes 600% damage. God, that's going to be confusing. So all the tricks that I've developed for the last 5 years to understand which one is the real PL without necessarily needing to see it is now going to be harder. Also, you can dodge spells because you have a 1 second phase shift. So basically, all of your illusions can dodge the damage for a second, and then when we pop back in, there's 2 extra illusions. One of them takes just as much damage as your hero does, but it doesn't do damage. But that's almost impossible to tell with 6 illusions. You're not going to be able to see which one's doing no damage. And one of them will pop out and take way more damage, but do normal illusion damage. That means if you're by yourself, and you Doppelganger, and you dodge a stun, you pop out, there's going to be 3 of you, and you can't just guess one or the other. It'll be like, oh, one of them's real, and let's guess. There's going to be 3. And you have a 66% chance of being the wrong one. So interesting. 8 second duration. Cast range is 600. So you can cast on your illusions. You can cast on yourself. I don't know if it works on the area you're in or only an area outside. Like if I cast it outside, does it still catch me? I'm not sure. 325 radius. Illusion gather range is 900. That's really big. Mana cost is 50. The cooldown is kind of big. The mana cost is so low though. 1 skill point in this is absolutely going to be necessary early game now. So I'm thinking skill build at least that right now is going to be like 411. Did they change his ulti? Well, let's read his ulti and then we'll talk about it. Grants Phantom Lancer and his illusions a chance to create an illusion when attacking. Max illusions 6, 8, 10. 8 when created by Phantom Lancer. 4 when created by his illusions. Interesting. So he's worse at split pushing, which is good. Worse at split pushing, and he's more likely to create illusions where his hero's fighting, which is generally where you want to be, rather than where your illusions happen to be. So that's good, I think. This means that if your illusions are fighting in a team fight, and they happen to be, and you lose track of them, and they're hitting creeps, at maximum, they're only going to create 4 illusions, whereas before, they would possibly create to your max illusions, and then you're actually hitting a hero you want to, and you can't spawn illusions, because you have all these illusions sitting over here that you forgot about. So, it should make the hero easier to play, and in some ways better. Hero chance 40, 45, 50. Wow, holy crap, that's big. It used to be a lot lower. It was like 12% or something. I might be completely wrong on that. 40, 45, 50 is massive. You very likely will actually grab this at level 6 now because you're getting almost guaranteed bonus damage. Illusions still take ridiculous. Did they always take 500%? I don't think so. 500 seems really excessive. I think it's fair though because the new Doppelganger ability allows you to dodge AoEs, and if you can dodge an AoE, you don't have to worry about damage taken as much. Illusion damage delta is very low at 16, so the illusions do way less damage than they used to. Your agility was nerfed, so they do way less damage than they used to. This means you're going to have to rely on Orb to do your damage now, so you have to get Diffusal Blade, I feel. Diffusal Blade's just too good not to get now because of Phantom Rush, I think. It's very simple for your illusions to right-click your opponents. You want to increase your illusion damage more than anything else. I mean, the radiance damage is good, but if you can clear the illusions easier, I don't know. Maybe it's not as easy to deal with things. So, I feel like this is cool. It increases the outplayability of a Phantom Lancer, whereas before it was basically like create illusions and run them at your enemy hero. This gives him a lot more options. He doesn't just have Spirit Lance and one small trick. He can now dodge spells with Doppelganger. He can run at people using his other spells, so his illusions are more useful. They still die fast because they have 500% damage, but you can also spawn them easier as well. So I think these are good changes to Phantom Lancer. We'll see how overpowered they are. I feel like the illusions are going to be really crap damage, but you can spawn more, so it'll actually kind of be like what Phantom Lancer should be in theory. Spawning a lot of illusions, being pretty confusing, not doing a huge amount of damage, still being annoying. He can't go invisible anymore, for God's sake. He actually can't go invisible. That's cool. That's going to make him less annoying. He's good at pushing. He's good at split pushing, but he's not as evasive, and he can't just use Doppelganger to initiate and be invisible and stuff. Seems cool. It's like forces him to fight, and he can actually fight better without needing like a billion items. So I think he'll be a little. He's still gonna be split pushy, but he'll be a bit like less annoying to split push against. Phoenix added Aghanim Scepter. Allows him to cast Supernova on an allied hero, bringing both into the sun to be reborn together. Holy crap. This does not refresh either hero's ultimate. That's fair. But it refreshes their basic skills. 500 cast range. If the sun is destroyed, both heroes will die. Okay. Interesting. They'll be reborn together, which means they get full HP. It doesn't let you refresh their ultimate because that'd be OP. Because it would basically be like an Aghanim Sun Phoenix would be like a refresher for any hero. You're like, oh, Tide Ravaged. Let's ulti this quick and you can Ravage again afterwards. It does work for basic abilities though, so this could see some abuses with heroes that have very good basic abilities. Heroes that have super good basic abilities. Undying is one. His Tombstone has a huge cooldown. That's one. Terra Blade is another one. Terra Blade has a huge cooldown in Metamorphosis. It's like 165 seconds. So you could use Metamorphosis and Manta more. You could Metamorphosis, Manta, go to town, Conjure Image, go to town, and then you could Supernova him. He'll respawn. He'll use. Well, you can't reuse Manta because the illusions will respawn. It's like if you rearm, or that won't work. But it's still abusable. You could like have it back up again. Pudge Hook. There's got to be some other skills that I'm not thinking of, but the main two are like Tombstone and. Oops! Oh no! What did I do? Go back! Don't lose my spot. What? Oh, I went. I see. I went back. Yo, I'm not supposed to be down here. I'm still in heroes. Oh, spoilers. Okay. Let's move on. Pudge. Turn rate improved, so his turn rate is faster. Dreamcoil no longer ignores invisible units or illusions. I think that's fair. Oh, it gets illusions. Okay. A decent nerf while still being a good buff. The buff to hitting invisible units is good. The hitting illusions is... It's a buff and a nerf. You can't always tell which hero is real, but it doesn't matter as much because PL doesn't exist. So, like, PL is by far one of the most annoying illusion heroes, but he doesn't go invisible anymore unless he gets a Shadow Blade, so this isn't the worst. At the very least, you can force the illusions to stop running, and you can kill them easier. This is very good against heroes like Chaos Knight as well, I might add. Very good against Chaos Knight, because Chaos Knight illusions, you want to kill those things, and you want to prevent them from just, like, reality rifting across the map and blowing you up into one crit. So that's good. Dreamcoil Snap Stun now pierces spell immunity. Okay. That's cool. Snap duration increase. Whoa, what a big buff. This might make Aghanim Scepter worth getting on Puck. Aghanim's, or Puck's ulti late game, especially against BKB heroes, is pretty much just good versus supports. And this is a pretty big stun duration. If you're level 16 and you can Ravage somebody, essentially, for 4.5 seconds, it does a lot of damage too. It's like 300. I assume the damage won't nuke him, won't go through Black King Bar, but the duration is still really big. This could, I think Aghanim Scepter could see play now. I don't think it will still, but you could do cool tricks like, oh, you dream coiled somebody and they're TPing out, and they BKB'd and they're TPing out. Force staff. Oh, you can't force staff. Damn it. That would have been so cool. Alright, that won't work. Whatever. I don't think it'll make Aghanim Scepter viable, but in certain situations it might be worth getting. Pugna Life Drain can now be targeted on allies, allow Pugna to drain his life on them. Thank God. I saw this image on this on Reddit, and I was like, they must be buffing like drain life to be usable on allies, but this is really cool. Pugna is a good pusher, and Life Drain is getting really good, but this is fantastic with an Aghanim Scepter. In fact, I think it makes it overpowered, because Aghanim Scepter already has a huge range, it has a huge transfer rate. So now what you can do, and it has a 0 cooldown, I might add, so what it allows you to do is, if somebody's in trouble, you just life drain them until they're out of trouble, and then you life drain an enemy to regain your health back. It's a little dangerous, but if your positioning is good, life drain essentially allows your team to never die in a lot of ways. If you get an urn on him, I would get an urn. I don't know if the life drain makes you lose your own HP, but if you get an urn, you could be like, oh, you're basically like a wisp, honestly. I don't... Will we see support Pugnas? We might see support pug this. You can earn yourself, start life drain, or bottle, earn plus bottle yourself while you're life draining an ally that's getting focus. We could see this. It actually opens up a lot of really interesting possibilities that I'd love to see. Support Pugdom might actually work now. It really might. Before, he just had nukes and he was too squishy, but now he can sit so far back. He can just be like, well, I'm Pugna anyways. I'll just sit really far back, and whenever my allies get initiated on him, I'm just going to start healing him. And it's going to be a pain in the butt for the allies to deal with, because it's 120 HP per second, I think, at level 1, which is huge. That's a huge amount of regen to your allies. It's dangerous for you, but if your positioning is good, it's fantastic. So that's cool. Queen of Pain, base attack time improved, removed unit targeting from Sonic Wave, which means, okay, you have to target on the ground, which I think is fair. And the final area of effect increased from 340 to 50. Okay, cool, because it does expand, so it kind of makes sense that it would expand. Razor Plasma Field, minimum damage. Oh, okay, so it does way less damage right in front of you. Way less damage. So there's a way to counter Razor, essentially. You just stand next to him, and then pretty much only does 180 with Plasma Field. The max is still the same, but it just does way less in melee range. Static Link no longer ignores Lincoln Sphere. Cool, so we can now counter Static Link with a Lincoln Sphere. That's very, very cool. Mana cost is increased. That's it's more mana costly to lane with it. Eye of the Storm no longer lingers through Aegis Reincarnation, which I think is completely fair. That was way cheap. It was like, oh, he's got double Eye of the Storm. Kill him. Oh, you kill him. Oh, he's respawned. He still has Eye of the Storm. That was bullshit. It was like Crab ulti. It should be working like Crab ulti. Like Crab ulti, if you die, it's like, oh, you lost Crab ulti. Your Aegis is pretty worthless now. Good luck. I think these are good nerfs, especially the Static Link Lincoln Sphere one. I think this is a really good nerf. Plasma Field nerf is good too, I think, because it allows you to play against Razor a lot better now. Ricky, base movement speed reduced. Base damage reduced by 10. Oh, I was like, is that it? Ricky just got triple nerfed for nothing? I was really confused. HP regen's reduced. Base damage reduced by a lot. And movement speed is reduced. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Permanent invisibility is now basic ability. What is this? Dota 1? Invisibility fade delay. 321 to 8642. Interesting. Very interesting. Permanent invisibility now provides HP regen while invisible. Blink Strike is now an ultimate and can target spell immune. Bonus damage from 30, 60, 90, 120, 50, 70, 90. Ooh, blink charges. This is League of Legends? I know there's some here that can like blink and blink and blink and blink if they get kills or something. I saw a montage one. Blink Strike now has 3, 4, 5 charges with a 30-second replenish time instead of a 20, 15, 10, 5 cooldown. Blink Strike mana cost reduced from 50 to 40, and the cast range increased slightly. Very interesting. So, his initiation ability is horrible pre-6, but that's not a big deal. His escape ability is horrible pre-6, other than Cloud. That's not true, because he's invisible. If he wants to be invisible, he can be invisible. What it really means is that offlane Ricky is going to be common in pubs, because that sounds horrible, and it's viable now, because you can actually just stand in lane and sap experience. You can also do you can snipe couriers with it. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. There's a lot of annoying things you can do with Ricky at level 1 right now. It's got a permanent invisibility at level 1. I don't know if he's more or less overpowered. Is there a cooldown? No, this just charges, so on blink. So bonus damage is pretty bad at level 1. But the cool part is that you can blink in and hit somebody. You can do it like 4 times in a row, 3 times in a row if you want, but it only does 150 magic damage, which is really bad. But it gets you in position, and then you can get in position, get into position. So he seems like he's going to be a little more of a ganker now. He can definitely gank very well now. I wouldn't say very well, but once he hits 6, he can actually gank well. It's not necessarily... I don't know about gank well. Number 1, you get HP regen while you're invisible, which means you can gank. Gank, lose HP, go gank somewhere else, because you're going to be full HP, hopefully. Well, not full, but you'll get HP by the time you get home. That's number 1. He's actually going to be like good at offlane. But he's good at offlane, but that doesn't mean he's good at offlane. He's good at getting experience in offlane. Doesn't mean he's a good offlane hero. I'm going to say that till the day I die. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. Keep that in mind, guys. If you're going to learn anything from this and spread it in pub games, just because Ricky can offlane doesn't mean that he's a good offlane hero, okay? Because he can offlane now, but it doesn't mean he's a good offlane hero. He still needs damage to kill heroes, His ability to gank is higher now than it was before, and also, maybe he will be a good offlane here. He's going to be like Bounty Hunter, kind of. You gank mid, you smoke cloud, you right click, you blink strike, you right click, you blink strike, you right click, you blink strike, you right click with an Orb of Venom. Maybe he will be a good offlane here. But you can do this 3 times. You can gank. He's still going to need treads for HP, I think. He's going to need treads, Orb of Venom. But that, you can get away with offlaning him now. Ricky will literally be an offlane here. What a weird world. I think he actually can offlane. I think it might actually work. I would still probably only get maybe 1 level of permanent invisibility early. I would level it over Smoke Cloud, I think. Yeah, I would definitely level it over the Cloud. The Cloud only increases Mischance and AoE. Maybe I'd go even points or something like that. I'm not sure. But I'd probably go like 1, 1, 1, 1 into max backstab. Probably is what I do. That's why another reason Blink Strike is really good to have charges, actually. Because if your opponent turns and fights you, now you can just blink on him again and you get an extra backstab hit. He sounds like he could actually be good at level 6 versus casters. Versus tanky heroes, I don't know if it's going to matter, but interesting. Interesting change. Ricky, very different. Shadow Demon, Soul Catcher now amps damage by... Oh, okay. Apparently Soul Catcher was functioning the same way. It feels like a week ago that I said this, because I know this video is going to be like 4 hours long or something, but... Purification, we talked about that on Chen before. It used to redeal the damage as pure damage instead of its actual type. So it actually amplifies the damage done instead of redealing it as pure damage. Which technically did. The pure damage was technically actually more damage. Accurately. I don't know if it worked on BKB. Maybe pure damage didn't go through BKB. But this means it might mean that if you use Soul Catcher to amp damage that are like people that are also being reduced by armor or magic resistance even farther, it might do an accelerant property. I might be wrong about that though. Oh wow. Aghanim Scepter Demonic Purge charge increased from 2 to 3. What a buff. God, I haven't done it yet, but I really want to get Aghanim Scepter on Shadow Demon. It looks so fun. You can ulti 3 times in a row. It does 400 damage. You can basically do like 1200 magic damage to a guy if you get an Aghanim Scepter. It's such a big buff. And like Demonic Purge is a really amazing ability. It really is an amazing ability. I've got to play mid Shadow Demon or something. Like I feel like it might be worth it. I know it scales bad, but Shadow Fiend Neck Mastery Soul Cap increase, so he does. Oh, it's better at level 1. Okay. Requiem of Souls debuff is now applied when the wave hits you instead of in a slightly smaller area independently. Okay, and the slow is increased slightly. Whatever. This is a buff to free farming safe lane Shadow Fiend is the main thing that I'll point out. Shackles mana cost rebalance. Big nerf at level 1. Better at level 4, so it scales a bit better. Mass Serpent Ward cooldown increased by 10 seconds. So Shadow Shaman worse support here, but still good, I think. Harder to cast your combo without Arcane Boots though, as a support. Glades of Wisdom, % intelligence to damage from this to that. Slight buff late game. And Global Sound's mana cost is worse late game, so it's harder to refresh it. But really, that's honestly the smallest nerf I've ever seen. Because late game, every time you steal 2 int, you get an extra 26 mana. So basically, if you steal 4 int, you have completely counteracted this nerf. Scarlet Mage Concussive Shot. Oh god, I'm so sad to read this. Movement slow rebalanced, it's disjointable, and the 6th flare is now dealt over 2.2 seconds instead of 2 seconds. Not that bad of nerfs to Scarlet Mage, I must say. 30% slow is a decent nerf, and he deserved it. And the disjointable is a decent nerf, but he's still really good early game. 2.2 seconds Mystic Flare is a nerf, but not the worst thing in the world. It's gonna be harder to kill people when you're not comboing, but when you're comboing, it's not gonna matter. If you have any stun, you should be able to get a full duration stun on a guy, basically. Slardar Slithium Crustration increased. Okay, big buff at level 1. I think this is a good buff to Slardar. Still the same at level 4. I think that was needed. Slark no longer visible to inside Chronosphere during Shadow Dance. I think that was fair. Buff to Slark. Basically a nerf to Void. Sniper Headshot now causes a 0.5 second 100% movement speed and attack speed slow instead of a 0.25 second stun. Double the slow. but, or double the disable, but no stun. Which means you actually can't interrupt channeling with him anymore. You can't stop TPs unless you ulti. Ulti does a stun, a mini stun. But that means that you have to channel the assassinate before they start TPing, because I think the assassinate time is pretty close to about what a TP is. I'm not exactly sure. Interesting, we'll see how this works out. I'm not sure if that's going to be... It means also that you can counter with BKB, because I assume the slow doesn't apply. I might be wrong though. Spectral Dagger movement speed increased, buff at level 1, all levels actually, and the projectile speed is reduced. Very small change to Spectre. Charge of Darkness cooldown reduced massively. Charge of Darkness cooldown is not triggered when charge hits its target or is cancelled. Okay. Okay, I like that. Instead of where cast. This is fair because it allows Spirit Breaker to do more early game and also late game. But it also doesn't make it overpowered, because if you charge across the map, you would get there and then it would be off cooldown again and you just charge again. That would be the cheapest shit ever. Empire Haste can be cast to improve the aura by 50% for 6 seconds, 20-second cooldown. Really cool. After it's used, aura is 50% weaker while the ability is on cooldown. Oh, cool. Okay, so it gives them basically a ganking ability. During a team fight, or the first 6 seconds, you want to increase your movement speed because it makes your bash damage do more. So you buff your movement speed so that you can chase better, you're ganking better, and then right after the gank is done, you are weaker. What a Mask of Madness hero, basically. I think that's fair though. Like, it's not even that amazing of an aura, so it's worth casting. 20-second cooldown is really big though, so you're losing a lot more than you're gaining. A lot more than you're gaining. If it's a long drawn out team fight, it's a nerf of an aura. But it's worth using if you're low on dying, if you're about to leave the fight. Greater bash damage scaled, 22% at level 1, so you can keep it at level 1 easier. Also with the lower cooldown Charge of Darkness, it might be more worth it to level up Charge of Darkness early game. Especially with the bash scaling a bit better. You can get 2 levels of bash, and it's equivalent to 3 levels of bash, which is pretty good. I usually go 1-1-4 build when I play Spirit Breaker. Plus with the aura being a bit better, you can also justify more levels of that as well, but I'm not entirely sold on that. I might be better to go... You could probably do a 2-2-2 build and justify it. I don't know if I would justify a 4-1-1 build, but it's not bad. It's like a 2.6 second stun. Once you hit 6, you could like charge somebody, ulti, hit a little bit, retreat, charge in again, hit a big AoE stun. I don't know. Storm Spirit, Ball Lightning mana cost per 1,000 units from 10 plus 1% to 12 plus 0.7%. That means on long balls, it's more, you can basically ball farther more mana efficiently. I don't know what the trade-off. Should we do some math right now? Is it time for math? 1 unit cost per 100 units from 10 plus 1%. Cost per 100 units, 1% of your total mana pool to 0.7 anyway. You could do like a big somebody's gonna do a math chart on the Storm Spirit. There's basically gonna be more mana in very short ball jumps, but less mana in longer ball jumps. Which means that it costs a bit more to do short jumps just to get the overload charge. But it's a little, which seems weird to me in some ways, because bad players will do a lot of short ball jumps generally. But I guess it allows you to gank a bit better or something. What a weird change. Sven Aghanim Scepter, when activated, God Strength grants an allied aura of 900 area of effect of 40, 60, 80% of his base damage. Interesting change. The Aghanim Scepter is a shit item for Sven, because it just gives HP essentially and very little plus damage. The attack speed is kind of cool, I guess. I feel like this isn't worth it. If you're a support. There you go. If you're a support, it's worth it. If you're anything else, it's not worth it. I think if you're a core, it's not worth it. If you're playing support Sven, this is worth it. Because your base damage is usually pretty high, like somewhere around 120. If you can give your carries an extra 40 damage, that's good. And supports need HP, they need mana pool. Armor is not the worst, attack speed is not the worst. I think this is cool. This is an item for a support Sven. If you play support Sven, buy an Aghanim Scepter. I'm into this. This is cool. You can stay alive, use Warcry, use God's Strength, make your team better. Techies Landmine cooldown decrease, so a buff to Techies Landmines. It's better at level 1. Stasis Trap stun duration is worse at level 1, worse at level 4. I think that's fair. 6 second stun is ridiculous. Stasis Trap activation area now matches stun area. I think that's very fair. And the duration is increased at all levels. Well, it's now at the max level. I think this one's really important because Stasis Trap was kind of hard to set off when it set off at like 1 games. And it's because this area is much bigger, it's fair to have the stun duration be lower. Remote Mine duration increased from 8 to 10 minutes. The vision is reduced, and the area is consistent now. I think these 3 numbers are close enough where they should have been the same. Bat Rider and Firefly, Visage Familiars, Beastmaster's Hawk, and Flankers no longer trigger or get hurt by landmines. Bat Rider and Firefly, okay. Visage Familiars, okay. Beastmaster's Hawk, and Flankers no longer trigger or get hurt. That means Visage is going to be a counter to techies. Bat Rider technically as well, but he can't kill mines as fast, so I don't think that matters. Templar Assassin, Sonic Trap, cooldown. Scales better late game, whatever. Terra Blade in Captain's mode, and Sunder gets a buff. Cast points getting improved. So we will see some Terra Blade strats very soon. I think Terra Blade is still a very good hero, but he does have some counters. AoEs beat him. Legion Commander is very good because she can clear his illusions really easily. Silences are fantastic. Ganking heroes like Storm are very good. Silences are so good. AoE is really important. I think he's a good hero, but I think he's in a pretty good place. Refraction's not overpowered like it was before. It takes like a point or 2 for that to be good. I think he's in an okay place right now. His HP is really low. Tidehunter Anchor Smash damage reduced from 60% to scaling. Very small nerf. Very small nerf, but I think it's a good nerf because it means that Tidehunter versus Tri-Lanes is less effective in the early lanes. So you should be better able to bully him the first couple levels, which is actually super important. This seems like a small nerf at first glance, but now that I think about it, it's really important because if you keep an offlane hero, this is like a competitive level nerf, by the way. This is not like a pub level nerf. If you keep an offlane hero at level 1, it's really good. So if you're better able to keep him at level 1, he's more likely to stay at level 1, because if he's at level 1 and then your carry gets an advantage, your carry can bully him, and it only takes 2 heroes to bully him instead of 3 heroes to bully him. So keep giving supports a better ability to zone somebody is a big buff. Timbersaw added Aghanim Scepter, grants Timbersaw a second Chakram. That's really good. That's really good. The item itself is very good on Timbersaw. HP, mana pool. It's a tank item. That's what he needs. He wants tank items. A second Chakram gives him 2 nukes instead of 1. Chakram at level 1 I think does 200 pure damage or something like that. I think it's like 100, 150, 200. I don't know what the scaling. Maybe it got nerfed recently. I can't remember, but basically gives him a big nuke. You can also put on 2 Chakrams to like zone off an area if you really want to. That's kind of cool as well. It's cool. I think that's a cool buff. It's definitely an item that you could consider. I wouldn't get it first. You need mana more than anything else, but I would consider that as an item if I play Timbersaw. March of the Machines no longer affects spell immune units. Hell yes. I think Ancient Creeps are spell immune and are no longer affected by March. Good buff. Ancient stacking is no longer viable. People are still going to stack regular camps, but that's not the worst thing in the world. And most importantly, if you use BKB, it doesn't do shit to you. So that's good. You can pop BKB and you can dive the Tinker and you're going to have a good time. Treant Protector, Nature's Guide's mana cost reduced from 90, 80, 70, 60 to 60. Aghanim Scepter grants a new ability, Eyes in the Forest. Oh, cool. This is an old Dota 1 ability. And they got rid of it. They changed Treant Protector many times. But now he gets Eyes in the Forest, which he enchants a tree. And the tree allows you to spy on your enemies and expand the area overgrowth effects. Oh, cool. Enchants a targeted tree. Enchanted tree grants 800 unobstructed vision. That's flying vision. This is a viable support item for tree now, I think. If overgrowth is cast by Treant Protector, units near an enchanted tree will be ensnared and damaged. If it's cast by Treant, units near an enchanted tree will be ensnared and damaged. If the enemy has True Sight, they will be able to see visual effects on both the affected tree and the 800 area of effect around it. That's balanced. The reason they put it on an 800 area of effect around it is because if you put it in a tree that's surrounded by trees and they had a gem, they would never be able to see that unless they had blind vision. So now it gives an 800 area. That way you know that they can see in the area. That way if you do have a sentry or a gem, that you know that you're being spotted. And I think that's balanced. Otherwise it'd be way too good. Because you could put like a bunch of hidden wards around the map and it'd be way too good. It's basically like free wards. It actually is. It's actually free wards, and I assume they last for forever. They actually last for forever unless you cut down the trees. So really, they used to be really interesting. I wouldn't say good necessarily, but if the enemy has true sight, they'll be able to see. Yeah. Cast range is 160. It's melee essentially. Cooldown is 55. Big cooldown. Basically, warding is not going to be super simple. The overgrowth bonus damage is 135 damage per second. That's a big difference. That means if you do grab bags, you can solo kill a little easier with it. It does up to 5 tick damage. That's a huge amount of damage. This is a lot of damage. You're basically getting like a 400 damage nuke with this. Not that you should have a lot of eyes in the forest by any means, and it kind of has a sense of planning ahead. Like, you can get a free ward, or you can save it for the team fight and maybe do 500 AoE damage to the entire enemy team, you know? Really interesting. I feel like Treant's picking up is good, because right now Treant's, I feel like all the items that Treant Protectors purchase are kind of mediocre. Blink is obviously fantastic, and Blink or Force is kind of a must-have, but sometimes they grab mechs and just buy wards all game, but grabbing an egg seems, it's probably still not worth it. I would say it's probably still not worth it. It only does damage if it comes from an enchanted tree. Yeah. I don't know what the AoE is, maybe 800. I'm not sure. Troll Lord, ranged Whirling X's cooldown, buffed at late game, and acquisition range. Okay. Apparently his auto attack range was lower on range. Just very, very, very small buffs. Tusk Ice Shards no longer stops when it hits a hero, and now travels until the cast location and creates an ice blockade there. The cast range is increased. It doesn't destroy trees. Snowball bonus speed per hero increased, and allies can now click on the snowball to jump in. I think that's fair. Kind of needed to be like that before, in my opinion. If somebody wanted to protect themselves, they could. It doesn't stop when it hits a hero. Travels until the cast location and creates a blockade there. But still does damage. This means that if you cast it in a fight, it's going to hit everybody now, instead of just hitting one guy. So it now is an AoE spell, which is a good buff. But it's a little harder to use. The range is increased. It's harder to blockade, basically. You have to know where it's going to blockade before you throw it. So that makes it a little worse. But it's better for damage in team fights. So it's a team fight buff, but it's a ganking nerf, I feel. Basically. Snowball buff. Undying Tombstone area of effect increase. Undying's getting a buff, and I'm a little surprised because I think he's very good right now. Aghanim Scepter Flesh Golem damage amp increased by 5% at all levels, both min and max. I thought it already did that. Ooh, that's really good now. Did that get buffed last time? I think this got buffed last time. Slower increase from 9% to variable 5 to 15. Man, this is really good. Minimum damage amp from 15 to 25. And now the minimum. So it's buff by 5. This could be very viable now. Aghanim's Undying. It's an extra 5%. It's a big buff. It's a 15% buff. No. That's really big. Sorry, that's the maximum. 5 to 5, but basically 15. Well, it did 15 to 15 before, I guess. Okay, that's less good than I thought it was. Alright, it's a very small buff, but it's a buff. It's a 5% buff. The way they described it was the correct way. 5% at all levels. It means it's best. It's the biggest buff when you're still level 6 to 10. Late game, it's better, but not like a huge amount. Vengeful Spirit, another swap range increased. Buffed at level 1, same at level 3. I think that's good. A buff to support. Poison Nova applies a debuff on spell immune enemies. What a buff to Venomancer. Holy crap. Does not deal damage due to its damage type. The important part is that it applies, because before the way it worked is if you had a BKB popped and Venomancer ultied, it's like, well, guess my ulti's not going to apply to that guy, and the application lasts longer than the BKB does. Like, the duration for Poison Nova is like 13 to 16 seconds or something. So if you'd ulti, and this guy had his BKB on for 2 seconds more, and you ultied, it doesn't hit him. But now it'll apply, and during those 2 seconds that his BKB is on, he doesn't take the damage, but as soon as his BKB runs out, he starts taking damage. And this is how it probably should have been before. This is a big buff to support Venomancers. It's a big buff to core Venomancers, especially core ones. A lot of people are playing core Veno right now, and core Veno farms an Aghanim Scepter, and Aghanim Scepter does a ridiculous amount of damage. So it also means that Venomancers can much more simply just cast their ulti and not have to worry about what's going on. So that's good. Corrosive Skin only affects enemies within 1400 area of effect. I think that's fair. Corrosive Skin damage cannot be reflected multiple times. So now when you spawn an illusion of Viper, like Morphling ultis Viper, and the Viper illusion hits Viper, and one hero does damage to Corrosive Skin, and Corrosive Skin does damage back. And he's like, oh, I just took Corrosive Skin damage. How many Corrosive Skin damage do you? It's like an endless fight. More importantly, what this means is that if you use like a damage over time ability on Viper, it doesn't stay in you forever, and I think that's fair. Like, if you use Poison Touch, Dazzle's Poison Touch on Viper, have fun taking Corrosive Skin damage for the next, like, 15 seconds. You take more damage than you do to him, usually. Same goes for Quap Dagger. Quap would use Dagger on Viper. Viper would reflect it every damage tick for 4 seconds. It was, like, really, really, really good. Any damage over time ability Viper would pay you back for it. Visage buff, Familiar Stone cooldown, 4 seconds, very small buff. Fatal Bonds now shares the same damage type that is dealt to it before is reduced. It used to do HP removal. It previously took the damage that was dealt after all reductions and redealt as HP removal. Yeah. Now immediately redistributes the damage with the same original source type before any reduction. Interesting. Very interesting. I think that's a nerf. Yeah, it's a nerf, which is why it's buffed by 5%. Because HP removal is pure damage. It's pure damage that goes through Black King Bar. No, that's universal. HP removal is pure damage. That's weird. Wait, HP removal is pure damage that doesn't interrupt bottle and interruptible heals. That's what HP removal is. HP removal is things like Urn and now Fatal Bonds. It can kill you, but it can't interrupt things like regen runes. Stuff like that. So the damage has been buffed because HP removal is pure damage. Pure damage is amazing. It's by far one of the best you can have. Physical damage is reduced by armor. Magic damage is reduced by magic resistance. So it basically has a higher chance to be reflected or to be blocked now. Golem based attack range increased. The attack time improved, so it attacks faster. And the HP regen is increased, especially at level 4. And the area effect immolation is bigger, and the Flaming Fists are reduced. The Flaming Fists were too good before, and I agree with that. I think they were too good. If you proc a lot of Flaming Fists, you just get wrecked. Because it does so much physical splash. So it's basically making the Golem tankier. It's more of a DPS source without being just like a splash cheese kind of thing. The Swarm duration increased. This amount of times the bugs hit you. So it's better at level 1. No longer is in... wait, CP chain or ignored invisibilities? I didn't know that. Damage is rescaled. It's worse at level 1. I think that's pretty fair. Scaling doesn't matter that much, though. It's very small. Gemini can now proc items. Wow. And the cooldown is rescaled. So it's worse at level 4, which is fair because it can proc items. That's amazing. That means it can crit. That means you can get MKB. That means you can hit Mjolnir. That means you can do a lot of cool stuff. You can bash with it. If you want to bash with it, range bash. It's cool. Crit is probably going to become really good. Mjolnir's going to become really good. Desolator is probably not going to be the build anymore. It may be Mjolnir. Although Mjolnir is maybe a little overplayed, so it might continue to get nerfed, but it's kind of hard to say. Mjolnir's going to be really good on it. Crit's going to be really good. MKB is going to be really good. Those are probably going to be the 3 damage items, I feel. Desolator might fall off a little bit. Not that Desolator gets worse, it's just that those other abusable things get better. And generally, crit is better than Desolator in most circumstances. But the Gemini nerf is going to hurt. But that means you kind of have to abuse items. Anyways, Wind Ranger's Shackle Shot latch distance is increased. And the Wind Run duration increase is buff. 6 seconds level 4. Maledict Dare effect increased. Deathward bounce does not behave the same as Deathward attacks with regards to Blade Mail. Neither redirects damage to Witch Doctor. Oh, apparently you could Blade Mail the bounces. It's just a bug, basically. Wraith King nerfed. Reincarnation mana cost increase. And Zeus static field area of effect increased from 1000 to 1200, so buff to Zeus's AoE damage. Items, we're almost there, guys. Recipe cost reduced. Armlet is buffed. Assault Cuirass no longer displays its debuff on the enemy if the carry is not visible. This is fair, because if you would come gank or if you'd be invisible, they could be like, oh, there's no Assault Cuirass debuff on me. Guess there's somebody looking at me right now. Somebody standing next to me. It's dangerous. Avatar spell me. God, I have to pee. This is dangerous. How long is this video? I don't even know if it says. It doesn't say. It's only a 220 megabyte video, though. It's like way less than my typical video. Okay. Most of the videos I make are like 1 gigabyte, so relatively it's like a fifth so far. Avatar spell immunity, duration, and cooldown are now tied to the hero instead of the item. Buying a new Black King bar will not reset Avatar's duration. Wow. Avatar spell immunity, duration, and cooldown are now tied to the hero instead of the item. Minimum immunity duration increased from 4 to 5. I think that needed to happen. That's cool. Basically, yeah, you can't rebuy BKBs now. You use a 10-second BKB, that's the only 10-second BKB you get for the rest of the game. I think this is a really cool nerf to BKB heroes because BKBs are really annoying to play against, and they're kind of anti-fun. I think that's a really good change. I think that's a good change. It'll make late game, it'll basically be easier to come back late game. That's the best way to describe that. Whoever buys their BKB first are more likely to have it low duration. Low duration BKBs are like the most depressing thing, though, I must say. Blink Dagger gold cost increased by 100. I think that's fair completely, because that item is really good right now. By far one of the best items in the game. Bloodstone now requires a Soul Ring and an 800 gold recipe instead of a Perseverance. No longer grants plus 10 damage. Soul Ring, oh cool. That's a buff to Tinker, kind of. Now requires a Soul Ring and an 800 gold recipe. You could maybe argue buff to Zeus. Zeus doesn't really need Bloodstone, though. I feel like it's a little bit of a waste. I know Ben likes buying Soul Ring. Merlini likes buying Soul Ring on Zeus. Requires a Soul Ring and an 800 gold recipe instead of a Perseverance. Okay. Alright. Buff to Storm, you could say. If you're Eternal Envy. I know Blitz doesn't like Soul Ring on it, but he'll probably like Soul Ring on him now. Buff to Storm. Buff to Tinker. Very, very, very slightly. Slight buff to Zeus, maybe. Who else gets Soul Ring? Bunch of random heroes. Some carries. A lot of the carries aren't going to care about it. Death Prophet doesn't really need Bloodstone. There's not a lot of heroes that it becomes amazing on. Mostly a buff to Storm that gets Bloodstone, I feel. I don't know if it's that big of a difference though. Bottle gold cost increased from 650 to 700, so Bottle is now worse. But this had to happen. Remember I talked in the beginning of the video like 4 hours ago how Bottle is going to be better now because there's 2 runes. There's 2 runes that spawn. One of them is a golden EXP rune or whatever the hell. That means that you can refill your bottle all the time now, which means Bottle is too good, which means Bottle has to be increased in price. It's going to hurt mid players. They're more likely going to not go a fast Bottle rush, I feel. They'll probably more likely come to mid lane with regular items. Regularish items, but it had to be nerfed. Because you can easily have 2 bottles on one team now without it being too weird. You could kind of do that before. Now you can definitely do it. There's 2 runes. If you have big map control, you say, oh, split up, good luck. See what rune you get. Boots travel, teleport cooldown reduced. It's fine. Butterfly now has an active ability, Flutter, which can be cast to trade Battle Fairy's evasion for a 20% movement speed bonus for 8 seconds. Interesting. Cool buff to Butterfly. Butterfly is not that good of an item. It's a good item situationally, but it's always like a 3rd or 4th item. And you could almost... Making it better early game is a good justification. Like, it's best for the evasion, essentially. But evasion doesn't do very much for you early because you mostly die to nukes. Butterfly is an amazing late game item because evasion is so good. And the attack speed is good at that point because you have all these, like, procs and, like, things like that. But, like, this one game, I was really farmed on Weaver. It was a long time ago, but I was like, I'm going to buy a Butterfly first item because they just won't be able to kill me. And it was the most underwhelming damage I've ever gotten because it only does 60 damage. You could grab an MKB that does 88 plus the bash. You could grab a Daedalus, which allows you to crit for 2.4 times the damage. Like, why would you grab those items when you could have why would you grab Butterfly when you could have those items? They do so much more damage. The survivability is there, the attack speed's there, but this will be cool. Let me think, who could this be used on? Drop the evasion, get 20% movement speed for 8 seconds. There's a 35-second cooldown. Ganking heroes. I don't know. There's probably somebody that you can use this on. I'm just not sure. I keep like sliding down. Cloak Hood and Pipe Magic Resistance now stack like any other, like all other normal magic resistance do. Did you not stack them before? Is deck diminishing? I don't know what this means. But I think it's... assuming this means that you can stack them and before you weren't able to, this is good because in the last couple of years, IceFrog has added a lot of ways to reduce magic resistance. Elder Titan, Ancient Apparition is even an example from like 2 to 3 years ago. That was like 3 or 4 years ago now, but Ancient Apparition, Elder Titan, Veil of Discord, Skywrath Mage. There's a new hero, I think Winter Wyvern can reduce magic resistance. There's a lot of heroes that now reduce magic resistance, where in the past it was a very, very rare thing. It wasn't very common. It was very, very uncommon to reduce magic resistance, so to allowing people to compensate against this is good, because I even play some pub games now where people have so many magic nukes and they have so many Aghanim Scepter upgrades and they have like all this nuke damage, and like playing against Zeus is like really painful sometimes because you just still die so fast. So I think giving players an ability to counteract that with even an overabundance of magic resistance is kind of fair. So I think this is a good change. Crimson Guard, Vanguard, and Buckler. Show details. Vanguard, Buckler, recipe. Gives you a Vanguard. Gives you Vanguard damage block. Gives you 5 armor. Gives you +2 to all stats. So it's literally exactly a Vanguard and a Buckler. What does the active do though? It's a recipe of 800 gold, so we need to justify the 825 gold in this recipe cost. Not counting the fact that you put those parts together, it's good. Gives nearby to allies +2 armor and a damage block shell that has a 100% chance to block 50 damage. It lasts 9 seconds and the cooldown is 70. +2 armor and a damage block shell that has a 100% chance to block 50 damage. So you're guaranteeing to block, well, 50 or less damage, because remember, damage block applies before the armor reduction. So it's not exactly 50 damage, it's less than that. If you have high armor, it's way less than that. If you have low armor, it's most of that. So it's basically good for your squishy supports. Your heroes with low armor. Very good for your low armor heroes. And it lasts 9 seconds. The passive damage block gives the wearer a chance to block damage from each incoming attack based on whether the equipped hero is melee or ranged. We already got that. Guard only affects heroes. Has the same no stacking mechanic as Pipe of Insight mech for 70 seconds. You can only get one of these. Is this good? It also damage blocks for you. The active costs no mana. It's got a big cooldown. It's a very minor damage block, but it does still allow you to push and turtle. It's kind of like a secondary mech, essentially. I could see this being purchased on heroes. Let's say, for example, you have 2 heroes that are mech carries in your game. One hero should buy Crimson Guard, one hero should buy Mechanism. I think that's safe to say. If you're playing like Razor's maybe not the best example, because mech is usually the better item to buy. But if you're playing Razor, you could maybe get a Crimson Guard instead. If you're playing a Viper, you maybe could get a Crimson Guard instead, because now you have all this damage block and you can tank up for your allies. If you're playing an Axe, maybe a Crimson Guard is the way to go. It's so expensive though. This is so expensive. This is way too expensive, I feel. This is going to get not used, I feel. Nobody even uses Vanguard right now. Why would that justify this item? I feel it doesn't. But I feel like IceFrog has to start really soft with this. The damage block is... I mean, 50 damage is honestly pretty big. I mean, it's 250 HP for your whole team. It does give 2 armor to your allies, which isn't the worst. I'm not sold on this. I think it's bad. Right now. I think it's bad. But it is kind of like it's a 1/5 of a mech, essentially. You're going to take 50 physical damage. You're going to take 50 physical damage. Keep in mind, it only blocks 1 source of damage, I believe. So that means if it's a creep, the creep is going to be wasted, because creeps do like 20 or less damage. So it's kind of wasted. But if you're in a hero versus hero team fight, it's like a 1/5 of a mech. If you have one of these, if you have a Crimson Guard, and you have lots of heals on your team, and you have a mech as well, Crimson Guard is going to be pretty good. You could justify Crimson Guard on a Necrolite, maybe, after a mech or something. That's even real hard to justify, I feel. I don't know if I like this item. But I feel like if somebody else is building a mech, and you want a tanky item, and you don't want to get Ags on Viper, a Crimson Guard is something you can buy. That's what I say about it. I think the recipe cost is way too high. I think it's way too high. But it does put 5 armor into a Vanguard, which is kind of cool. It makes your Vanguard less... It basically allows you to build Vanguard without looking at it as a wasted item slot, and that's another thing to look at. It's one reason why people don't build Vanguards on carries, because you're like, well, I could build a Vanguard, but late game I'm going to be out of slots, and then I have a fucking Vanguard, and I want to make a heart instead, but I don't have slots, and I can't disassemble it, so it's a waste, you know? Sorry I'm shaking my camera so much. So I feel like this isn't worth it yet. It's okay, but it's not that good. I would only get it right now if somebody else wanted to build a mech, like an offlane hero, and I was playing like a mid Viper or something. That's the only reason I would get this. I would go like Vanguard into Eggs maybe, and then get Crimson Guard or something. I don't know. Or maybe I'd go straight into Crimson Guard. I don't even know. It's not that good though. I don't think. I just don't see it as that amazing. Dagon. Buffed intelligence per level, energy burst, mana cost is the same at all levels. This is a nerf to Tinker, cool nerf to Tinker. This means that every time he casts his Dagon 5, it costs an extra 80 mana, which means he's less mana efficient, which means he's less able to do more combos of Dagon Blade. Diffusal Blade, recipe cost reduced from 850 to 700, so buff to Diffusal, which is a buff to PL, and generally to Illusion Carrier's agility bonus rebalanced. It's worse at level 1, and way better at level 2. So much better to upgrade, and the feedback is rebalanced to constant 25, I see. So the feedback is worse at level 2, but the agility gain is amazing. That's 15 agility for 700 gold. That's a really good price. Really good price. Ethereal Blade now has a projectile. Moves at 1100 speed. This means you can dodge it. That's the implications. And it only turns the caster ethereal if they target himself. Okay. I think that's pretty fair. That means if you have 2 heroes and they're getting Omni Slash, if the Tinker E-Blades his friend, he will now die. Or take the damage, which I think is pretty fair. It's maybe a little... same goes for Chronosphere. The projectile is really important though. This means that it's a fast projectile, but you can disjoint it, you can blink it. It doesn't just guaranteed hit you and interrupt your blink dagger. So you can react to it. It's still a really fast projectile. Actually, I don't know what 1000 speed is. I actually have no idea what that means. But, actually I do. Mystic Snake used to be 600, so it's like twice Mystic Snake. Which means it's kind of fast? I don't actually know. Oh my god, Ice Scotty got buffed again. That's attack speed only though, not movement speed, so it's okay. Flying Courier base movement speed increased. Now takes 50% extra damage from melee heroes. Interesting buff. Allows them to one-shot it better. And the speed burst cooldown increased. Wow, big nerf to speed burst. And the duration reduced. What the hell? Takes more damage from melees. Cooldown is increased massively. The speed burst duration is reduced ridiculously. Basically, oh, this is a nerf to Bottle Crow. Oh, it makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. Perfect sense. Okay. It's like, why the nerf from Bottle Crow? Oh, because there's 2 runes that spawn, therefore you should always get a rune anyways. Therefore, there's no reason to have a Bottle Crow. And why would they nerf Speed Burst then? Because Speed Burst would mean that nobody ever gets kills. Relatively. So now Speed Burst is literally a 4-second Speed Burst so that they can evade heroes trying to kill it. And the Speed Burst has actually been buffed in movement speed. So Speed Burst is very good for evading heroes now. Basically. And nobody should use Speed Burst anyways, because the movement speed it gives is pretty low. 90 seconds is like honestly so much that you should probably never use Speed Burst unless you're avoiding danger. Even though the movement speed is pretty big difference, 430 to 650, but the overall movement speed is a lot higher. So I like that they buff. I like these changes. It's very forward thinking. Very forward thinking. Helm of the Dominator provides 3 HP regen. I like that. That's really cool. I like that a lot. Because a lot of heroes that want to grab a Helm of the Dominator in lane just end up buying a Vlad's instead because they really feel like they need the HP regen. Dominator units have bonus HP as well. Cool. But of Defiance, HP regen increase very slightly. Fine. Lincoln Sphere only blocks Wrath of Nature's initial bounce, not subsequent bounces. Okay. It only blocks Lightning Storm's initial bounce, not subsequent bounces. Okay. That's nerfs. Basically buff to Leshrac, buff to Nature's Prophet, nerf to Lincoln's, nerf to Lincoln's. Netherward no longer triggers buff to Lincoln's, in my opinion. Lightning Bolt now triggers Lincoln Sphere when targeted at the ground. Oh, that's Zeus's Lightning Bolt. Maelstrom and Mjolnir no longer trigger Lincoln Sphere, which I think is fair. Recipe cost increased. Maelstrom is nerfed. This item is getting better and better. Well, not necessarily, but it's being appreciated and more appreciated. Mantis Mirror Image vision type change from unobstructed flying to ground. When you use your Manta, it gives you slight unobstructed flying vision. Now it's only ground vision. Yeah, it would give you a glimpse of your surroundings. So I think a good nerf. Recipe cost reduced very slightly. Mask of Madness reduced very slightly. Mechanism, mana cost increased massively. Wow, what a nerf. That's a big nerf, 150 to 225. This means carrying mech on tanky strength heroes is much more difficult to do. Much more difficult to do. And if you do build it, you're going to have an Arcane Boots. Or a bit more mana pool. It's a big nerf to Mechanism. But what that does is it nerfs 5 mana, basically. Which was too good in the past. So building mech is going to be harder now. Definitely harder. Pipe of Insight, HP regeneration increased from 8 to 9. Pressure Orb is nerfed in terms of duration. Armor increased from Ring of Protection from 2 to 3. And the cost goes up by a lot. So this is going to change some item builds. Some starting item builds. And also a couple items, but not much. It's 25 gold. But we'll probably see things like Ring of Basilius be buffed, I guess. Perhaps. Or maybe people are just going to hold Ring of Protection more. I don't know. Sentry Ward range increased slightly. No big deal. Invisibility break damage increase. It does more damage when you break invis. Sheath's Guard freezing aura no longer displays its debuff on the enemy if the carrier is not visible. Consistent. Gold cost reduced from 135 to 100. So more TP scroll money. So being able to defend against ganks is going to be easier. People will spend less money as the game goes across, which means more items, which means supports won't have to sacrifice as much. All around, I think it's a buff to supports, and yeah, all around big buff to supports, I think. Yeah, buff to supports. Supports use TPs, I feel the most, especially in the early game. And buying a TP usually costs you a lot. It really delays your boots or your observer wards or something like that. So I like that this is being reduced. I really feel supports are the ones that use TPs the most in the early game. Carries and mids use it to go back to their lane, which is fine, but I feel supports generally TP more. Damage type changes. What the hell? I thought we were done. Few abilities and damage type mechanics have been reworked. There are now 3 primary damage types and a spell immunity piercing status with each. Each ability now carries a notation in the tooltip indicating these 3 damage types are physical, magic, and pure. Alright, that's consistent. Physical is affected by physical armor, okay. Magical is affected by magical damage resistance, okay. And pure is affected by neither, consistent. Magic immunity has now been renamed to spell immunity. Spell immunity only defines if spells interact with it, not how damage itself is handled. That's a better word to use. Spell is better than magic. Because magic immunity meant that spells wouldn't affect you, not that they wouldn't do damage, because universal damage like Doom would still do damage, so it's confusing. Black King, Bar, Repel, Rage, and all other previous forms of magic immunity now grant spell immunity status and a 100% magic resistance bonus. 100% magic resistance means you take no damage. In the vast majority of cases, the interactions are still the same. However, an example of a case that would be different is if an ability has both spell immunity exception and has pure damage type. Previously, the damage would not have any impact. However, now it does. What's an example of spell immunity exemption or exception? I'm sure they'll give me an example, right? Previously, the damage would not have any impact. However, now it does. What's an example of a spell that has spell immunity exception but has pure damage? Like, Fatal Bonds is maybe an example. Rupture is probably an example. Maybe? Damage type, pierces spell immunity, yes or no. Okay, so it's very clear. So you can learn mechanics from the game now, which is good. Just by beating them. Oh god. Oh, there's so much stuff to read, yes. I know this has been like 4 hours, but I'm like loving this shit. I hope you guys have been too. If the damage type is not magical, it will be colored differently to make it easier to notice. So like the tooltips will be colored, that's good. Same is true in cases where pierces spell immunity is yes. Oh. Okay. Because most spells do magic damage, and if they do physical or something, it's confusing. For new players. They just might not realize it. So it's good to make these, that's good. They're basically like making tooltips better. This is good. There have been a few abilities rebalanced with these mechanics in mind. In some cases, the intent is to maintain similar balance. In other cases, is as an adjustment to their balance. Rebalance with those mechanics in mind. Okay. Acid spray damage type from composite to physical. Still pierces spell immunity. I think that's good. Yeah, it does physical instead of composite, which means it does more damage because now there's no magic resistance to block it. But the damage is being reduced because it has to. Because if you go from composite to physical, it means it's no longer reduced by magic, which means it does more damage to heroes, which is too much. It still does the same damage to creeps, because creeps don't have magic immunity usually. which means that its counter pushing ability and its creep killing ability is worse. That means it's worse against Ancients as well. So Acid Spray is worse against Ancients, worse against creeps, probably better versus heroes, maybe about equivalent, depending on how much armor they have. You'd have to do some math on it. That's a complicated answer. Nightmare damage from HP removal. I didn't even know that was HP removal. Who knew? I didn't know that. Nightmare damage from HP removal to pure. So it doesn't really matter, because the only difference between HP removal and pure is whether or not it interrupts bottles, I believe. I might be wrong on that. Bottles, salves, things like that. Regens. But they can't use those anyways. Oh, I guess technically if you nightmared somebody, you could salve him, maybe. Maybe that would work. I never thought about that. What a weird mechanics thing. I'd love to see that in top play. Not that, like, the chances of that happening are so low, though. Wild Axe's damage types from composite to physical still pierces spell immunity, and the damage is rescaled. We saw that earlier. Brewmaster Primal split Earth Spirit's pulverized damage type from magical that pierces spell immunity to magical, no longer pierces spell immunity. Okay, whatever. Doom damage type, this is the big one. Doom damage type changed from magical that pierces spell immunity to pure that pierces spell immunity. Okay. We didn't see this up above in the Doom section, but it was important. Remember I said that I felt like Doom's buffs were really not that severe. It was mostly cast time. This is a big buff, a big nerf. Yeah, I think this is a nerf. In some ways. Now that it's pure damage, it's not reduced by magic damage, which means that if you had a hood, you wouldn't take that much damage. It would be pretty reduced. Really encourages Aghanim Scepter. Holy crap. It actually doubles the damage at the first level. So now that it does pure instead of magical damage that goes through magic immunity, it doesn't matter if you have a hood. It's going to do the full damage. But it's been reduced to compensate for that. And if we do some math, magic resistance is like 25%. I know the numbers aren't like exactly... yeah, actually they are, aren't they? Because if you do 300 damage nuke, you're doing 225, which is exactly 75. So, normally, before you were doing 22.5 damage per second from Doom at level 1. Now it does 20 damage per second. It does less damage now. It does less damage at level 1. At level 3, that number's a little harder. Maybe I can open, like, I won't bother, but I don't know if it does less at level 3. The ratio is a little different, but I feel it probably does more damage at level 16, but less damage at the first level. So, and the Aghanim Scepter buff is pretty huge. This is a lot more damage from the base levels. It doubles at level 1. At level 2, it's like, I don't know, 60% better, and at level 3, it's like 60% better, or 40% better. Something like that. My numbers might be wrong based on my like improper algebra. I don't remember exactly. Echo Slam initial attack is now the same magic damage type as the rest of its damage. Initial damage no longer pierces spell immunity. Yeah, the initial damage was actually like, yeah, it was magic that pierced spell immunity apparently. I knew that it went through magic immunity. I remember getting a kill with it in a video once. But now it also is blocked by spell immunity, which is, it's fine. It's fair. Enigma Midnight Pulse damage type change from magical that pierces spell immunity to pure that pierces spell immunity. And it's reduced, which looks to be pretty much the same. Remember, 3 points of pure is equivalent to 4 points of magic, so it's the same. And I don't know if that ratio goes for the last points as well or not, but it basically means that people with hoods or higher magic resistance are going to actually take more damage from Midnight Pulse than they did before, assuming the ratio is the same. Leshrac Diabolic Edict damage type changed from composite to physical, still pierces spell immunity, and the damage is reduced to compensate. It deals 40% more damage to towers, same overall damage per second as before. Wait, why is it more damage per second if it deals 40% more damage to towers? Did towers have magic resistance or something? I didn't. It's like a very... knowing about tower resistances is very peculiar because in most of our Dota mechanics comes from units, and it's based on Warcraft 3, and Warcraft 3 buildings have different mechanics and armor types. Fortified is different armor type than like hero armor. So this is kind of complicated, but it says it does 40% more damage to towers. It says it does the same overall damage per second as before. Why would it do more damage if it does the same DPS? Because it still lasts the same amount of time. I don't know, that's kind of confusing. Maybe it does more damage to towers probably because physical does more. It may mean that it's better against towers. Who knows? We'll move on. Lina, Laguna Blade, Aghanim Scepter damage type change from magical that pierces spell immunity to pure that pierces spell immunity. Same thing. A good continuity change here. Better against heroes that get hoods means Lina is still good against heroes that get hoods. If they get a hood or a BKB, Aghanims is good. And also, it no longer increases damage, only the damage type is changed. Interesting. Well, that makes sense because, like, yeah, it's the same amount of damage because before you just increase the damage and they still have magic resistance. Now you just remove their magic resistance. So if they have a hood, it's way better. It does way more damage. If they get a hood, it does way more damage based on how much gold they have in terms of their tankiness. If they grab a BKB, it allows you to ulti through their BKB, which is good. But if they don't BKB, it's not very good. Yeah. So basically, Bind Aghanims is very good against BKB or hood people, and it's bad otherwise. No, that's not true. It still does more damage because it's pure, and everybody has magic resistance. Alright, so it's good against everybody but Visage. Now it's also good against Visage because Gravekeeper's Cloak gives them magic resistance. Yeah. It's definitely good against against Meepo because Meepo has more magic resistance. Okay, so it's good against everything. It's basically good against anybody that has magic resistance. It still gives you more damage. It still lets you go through BKB. It's really good against hoods and magic resistance auras because those do nothing because it's pure damage. Okay. Interesting change. Spirit Bearer Death now deals 10% max health as pure damage instead of 100, 200, 300, 400 composite damage. I think that's very fair. Because it used to be able to kill you, and that was kind of dumb. Kind of. Necros Heartstopper aura is now negative regeneration instead of HP removal. You will still get credit for kills with it. Negative regeneration instead of HP removal. Why would they bother changing this? I'm not sure why they needed to change this. I might just move on from this. I'm not sure why they changed that. I don't know. It sounds like the same thing. Negative regeneration is full HP points without being reduced, so it makes sense. I don't know. Oh, you know what it probably is? Is probably because like you're like regenning up or whatever, and then it would chunk down, and then regen up and chunk down, and regen up and chunk down, and now you can like obviously see like, oh, I'm taking 20 damage per second. That sucks ass. Like, you can see exactly how much HP you're losing. Like, you're gonna die. I think that's cool. You'll know exactly how much damage you're taking. It won't be as like chunky. It's more predictable. You can play around it. I think that's a nice change. Maybe unneeded, but a nice change. Techi's Landmite's damage type from composite to physical still pierces spell immunity. The damage is reduced. Suicide Squad attack is changed from composite to physical. Still pierces spell immunity. It still won't work on Ghost Scepter. And the attack damage is reduced. So, probably does pretty comparable amounts of damage, I assume. But it counts as physical. Which really doesn't matter that much. Composite, I think the reason they're changing this is because composite is confusing. Composite is confusing. It's better this way. They're making Dota better, basically. That's what they're doing. They're basically trying to get rid of HP removal. They're trying to get rid of composite damage. They want to get rid of all this stuff that is like confusing and like way too complicated and like just makes you a Dota purist and shit. I think this is good. March of Machines is now magical that does not pierce spell immunity. We already saw that, but it's still magical. And Vengeful Spirit Wave of Terror is not HP removal. It's now pure that pierces spell immunity. Same thing. They're getting rid of HP removal. I don't know how. We'll see what Urn says. There's Urn. It's pure. Urn might interrupt bottles and things. We'll see. That's where things get confusing here. If this is pure damage, that means Wave of Terror can now interrupt urns. It can interrupt salves. Like, that's huge. You can Wave of Terror guy maybe and remove his salve. Fatal Bonds, we already talked about Fatal Bonds, damage percentage, blah blah blah. Last Will goes from pure to magical. Still is not pure spell. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. The damage is increased because now people have spell immunity, so makes sense. H removal to appear. Additional notes. Okay. Composite damage has been removed. There we go. I figured it out. So no longer any abilities which use composite damage. HP removal. This is no longer considered a damage type, and its remaining uses are as an alternative cost to mana for spells to use. Sunray, Burning Spears. Okay. Because HP removal, well, it can kill you. Or as a functional HP modifications. Armlet, Sunder, etc. These are now considered usage costs in the game and are never lethal. I assume this means that Urn can't interrupt bottle charges and stuff. If it doesn't, that's it's slightly significant. It's a buff to Urn. I'm not entirely sure. These other ones are not that big of a deal. Wave of Terror is slightly significant. The rest of these are honestly not a big deal in terms of the HP removal versus pure damage. But the Urn one and maybe the Wave of Terror are important, but we'll see how that plays out. It's not extremely clear whether or not that stuff still interrupts bottles and cells. Combat log detail is Shadow Fiend bot, Bloodseeker bot, Skywrath Mage bot. The courier receives the deliver order and now morph into the courier of the player that requests the delivery. Yep, I saw that. That's pretty cool. Net worth graph now includes consumable items. Good. That's good. That means net worths are going to be more accurate now. Wait, includes consumable items? It means items in your inventory? Or does that mean, does it reduce your net worth if you consume a lot of salves? I'm not sure. New alt clicks. Alt click the clock to print the current game time. That's cool. Much easier. Alt click on a bottle with the stored rune to print out the rune name. Alt click enemy hero abilities to warn your teammates. Alt click the quick buy to say much gold is needed to complete the item. How much gold is needed? Chat wheel options. Good game well played. Blah blah blah. I don't use chat wheel. Use alt now. We're at the top rune. Space created. Damage reading. Space created is actually fix the item select dialogue in the loadout. Now closed. After my gemstone reward. Okay, good. Alright, is that it? Oh, there's the bottom of the page. We're done, guys. Okay, well, that's it for the video. That was a lot of stuff. I can't wait to play the new patch. It's going to be really fun. Offlane is going to change a lot. Offlane players are going to have to learn a lot of new tricks and things. Definitely watch a lot of pro games. If you guys want to adapt to the patch as fast as possible, watch what pros are doing. Even if they're not necessarily doing the best possible thing, like we find out 6 months later that people are doing it wrong, you're still up to date, and hopefully you'll be ahead of the curve. Playing Dota is more being ahead of the curve. Knowing what the best things to do are, and learning the tricks a little bit before other people is usually going to give you a slight edge. So watch a lot of pro games. I'll try to cover a lot of the changes in the patch as we go on. I can't wait to try some of these new heroes, or at least the modifications. I want to play Leshrac. I want to play Bane a lot. Not that he's that different, but this explains why I was confused by this. I was like, why do they change it from HP removal to pure? Because they wanted to get rid of HP removal. A lot of changes, a lot of modifications. I want to try out the Crimson Guard on a tanky hero. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on. I want to play Weaver. There's so many cool things. I love patches. So much fun. This is what makes Dota interesting for a really long time. So anyways, thanks for watching the video. For those of you guys that watched the whole thing, sorry I'm sick again. I really apologize, but unfortunately there's nothing I can do about it. It's either sick or don't record. Or don't record or be sick and record. So here I am. I hope you guys like this method a bit better. I just wanted to keep everything quiet and like be able to focus my brain entirely on this and not get distracted by interrupting or being a nuisance for other people. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you later. Bye.